All right, we will record this again.
Why?
All right, here we go.
It went fine. Are you recording that?
Oh, I know this.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us. This is Comedy at a Distance, Saskatoon's first online open mic, and hopefully there's a lot more to come. I'm your host, Trevor Dean. What can I tell you? I've been practicing social distancing way before it was cool. That maybe explains why I don't get any dates. Thanks. And I did have an opening that was really, really good and really funny, but Fabian wrecked it, so I won't do it again because I don't want to bore everybody.
Maybe it'll be better this time.
Yeah, think of the bright side. Sorry.
Where are you, Preston? Is like a car under in a... Were you in an accident?
No, but if he is in one, we're going to get to watch it live.
Okay.
Hey,
all right.
David, I miss you too, buddy.
Yeah. This is called crowd work right now, Trevor. We're getting to know the crowd.
Yeah, we are getting to know the crowd. All right.
Do a little crowd work, huh?
All right, we will start again. Now.
Why? It started at 9 as far as I was concerned.
Okay, stop talking. There is one thing that I forgot to mention while I was promoting this show. There are many advantages to doing an online open mic. First, you're at home. You don't have to deal with drunks, and you don't have to wear pants. But you should shower.
Someone's sharpening a sword back there or something.
What is that? I have a good one now.
This is supposed to be an online open mic comedy show, not cooking.
It is, man. The thing is, you can make these different, you know. Like, what are you doing?
I'm gonna puke.
This is funny, man. You know what we've done is we've made people laugh, man. That's a shame, man.
All right, we will get started.
We are started. If you go back to the start and try, if you don't record everything, then I'm going to leave. Just like, what are you doing, man?
I don't know if they're gonna...
Oh, I'm dying.
Who's up first?
Are you going to be quiet so I can continue?
Are you mad at me?
I'm going to ask you once. Stop talking.
Or what?
Semchuk, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm enjoying what's going on now, though.
Okay. Everyone's going to get.
Trevor, I just want to apologize to you in front of everyone here. I want everyone to see me here right now.
Okay.
Guys, I'd like to apologize. Trevor, I'd like to apologize. Sorry.
Where is Mr. Semchuk?
I'm
Trevor. I'm sorry, Trevor.
Center, but
okay, turn on your video, buddy. You're first.
Sarah's got her guitar out, man.
I'm painting.
Can I just make one comment? Whoever's in the background, like sharpening swords or like loading guns or like just like let's mute ourselves if we're going to be off doing that. You know what I mean? It's going to take away from the person's act. You know.
All right.
Trevor, Preston,
first up,
Okay, I'm ready to turn them off. They're annoying.
First up is a gentleman that is fairly new to the local comedy scene. It's been a while since I've seen him perform.
I can't see him.
Here is the one and only Joel Semchuk.
Hi, everybody.
Yeah! I can't see him. There he is.
Joel.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for clicking on this link during your quarantine. That's like thanks for coming out, I guess. During the quarantine. It's good to see all your names on the screen. So yeah, all right. Quarantine joke. So he's
I can't hear you over the person making supper.
Okay. It's like crowd noise. This baby seal walks into a club. Yeah, no. And the mother dairy cow said to her daughter, "One day you're going to make a great leader." I was in the bank and I saw an alligator. It was buying RRSPs. So I guess that meant that it was an investigator. My fridge broke down. It's not cool. Not cool at all. And my kitchen knife is getting dull. It still talks fine. I'm just sick of listening to it sing stories. Oh shit! Excuse me for 1 second, everybody.
No.
What are you doing, man? You seem prepared.
What I've always wanted to do while doing comedy.
Yeah, I've already smoked crack.
Smoke.
I wish I could smoke in my house.
I shouldn't be smoking in my house, but I just cooked, so I might be able to get away with it.
I wonder how many people are going to quit smoking now.
And I have this lovely device, which everybody should. Oh my god!
What is that?
Keep doing your material, buddy.
Okay, so my car is sad. It's not the car is sad. It's just that the brake pedal gets pressed a lot. As we all know, Subaru has been marketing cars to lesbians. And don't get me wrong, it's brilliant, and the ads are quite good. The other day, I saw this young guy driving a brand new Subaru, and my first thought was, haha, you're driving a lesbian car.
I think we have a couple of cookies left.
Then it occurs to me, this is to implement people who watch sports and hunt deer and sleep with women. And then I thought, I wish I was a lesbian car.
No, we didn't bring home that much.
Okay, I'm going to interrupt right now. Who is like living their life right now? And, like, you gotta mute it or something on that. That's what you gotta do there. Mute that person, Trevor.
I can't tell who's.
Yeah, neither can I. So everyone, if you're listening and you're like, if you're gonna be doing something in the kitchen, like talking to a loved one or fucking cutting some like.
If you have any loved ones in the room, please leave.
Yeah, sharpening a sword or something like that in the background. You know, grinding or making sharpening your skates or whatever.
As long as we're taking a break here, can we get all these people's cameras going? Can I see all you?
Yeah, let's get everyone's cameras going. Let's come on. It's supposed to be a fun interactive thing. But then, so who just turned on their faucet? Who did that? Who did that? Who is doing that? Okay. I'm looking at everyone here. Lachlan, I can't see you. This is why you gotta turn everyone on, Trevor. I can tell you right now who is doing this if I can see it. I have to sit there and listen to the sound.
With their camera off.
So guys, start making lunch.
Okay, keep going, Joel.
I can't hear
like this. It looks like I'm getting a blowjob. Oh right. Because Fabian, you moved. Because I got you here, I'm gonna try an impression, actually.
All right.
This is my impression of Robin Williams. Get it?
Well, I don't know. I can't tell because then all of a sudden that person was so loud in the kitchen it didn't show you. Who is that? That's iPhone 7. Who is iPhone 7?
This show so far is going just like my act.
I think this show is going great.
Okay.
All we need is one person. Garrett, that's you, isn't it? Garrett.
He's at the door.
Garrett's here?
That was Lachlan. Lachlan, that was you.
What? Doing what?
Who didn't turn their phone on mute?
Come on, guys. If a comic's doing their material, mute your mic if there's going to be background noise.
Yeah, like it's not fucking, like, what the hell?
Did you have anything else, Joel?
Sure, well, yeah, he's got lots, I'm sure, but Jesus. Who's ever
I'll give you another minute if you want, Joel.
person in their own kitchen? It's iPhone 7. Trevor, whoever iPhone 7 is, just mute them.
Okay, I'm just going to mute everybody, and then I will unmute.
iPhone 7. You got to mute.
No, I just muted everybody, and I will unmute Mr. Oh, where is he? Hang on, Semchuk, I'm coming.
So, but we want to hear people laugh too, right? So just if you just turned off iPhone 7, then you can still hear everyone laugh. You just wouldn't hear that person like. I don't know what they're doing.
Can you hear me laugh?
It might have been you.
Are you there, Semchuk?
You're just Robin Williams.
There. Okay. Yeah. Now I was muted.
Okay. Okay, I'll give you another minute, Joel. Keep going.
Is everybody enjoying this as much as I am? This is a blast. All the germaphobes are probably feeling pretty self-righteous right now, aren't they? They're all like, welcome to the hand washing club, bitches.
It doesn't really work if everyone's muted.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
No, but you just got to leave iPhone 7 muted. That's the ignorant one.
It's okay, Fabian. It's like people buying drinks and glasses clinking and stuff. You know, it's a reminder that people are out there. It's all good.
Oh, great. Bucky knocked over the tax. Oh, God.
Good job, Joel.
Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, you know what? You can have my time. I'll just leave.
No. You stay. We're all here to hear you.
Why?
All right, next up is Mr. Preston Fontana.
Try to bargain with some time.
Yeah.
Preston.
Preston, are you in a car?
He's muted.
He's muted.
Oh, he's muted. Are you in a car? We can't hear you.
It's kind of good muted.
Definitely
Yay.
What parts are you doing?
Oh boy, yes.
All right.
I'm currently. Yeah, it is my ride home.
The preschool.
I'm currently zooming in. I'm a comedian in a car, not drinking coffee.
Just really quickly. We just had our special guest headliner join us from Los Angeles, Jerry Corley.
Hey, Jerry, you're going to be watching a very well-done professional show.
Yeah, it's always fun to watch these virtual mics.
How's it going, Jerry?
He's a fellow bald guy. I like it. Nice.
Yeah.
Welcome.
That's my guy. Yeah.
Okay,
this
Preston, go ahead.
That guy gives people comedy advice. Like, he fucking, he's sweet.
All right, buddy, go ahead, Preston.
Okay. Well, I do have a few coronavirus jokes handy. We know the story of that chloroquine drug that everyone's been desperately trying to get, including an older couple that thought their aquarium cleaner was a suitable alternative. Well, I don't know if the person who used it was sleeping belly down, but they're currently sleeping belly up with the fishes. I see why I don't do topical comedy all that much, but, coronavirus is the only viral content that you wish were blocked in your country. Now, is this enough social distancing for us? Cough once for yes, cough twice for no, and don't you dare sneeze on me.
Preston, you look like you're in a very contagious spot.
I am in a very contagious spot right now. I'm not. It's good to see that you all finally see things my way. You're all staying home and not doing much like me. Yeah, I finally caught my last shiny Pokemon. Oh,
Nice.
Do you have any idea how long that took? Like, I'm a Pokemon master right now. You can even check my Pokemon Go account. I'm at level 40. I look at it. Says I walked 0 kilometers today. That's not a surprise. I'm not a huge comedian yet, but the ladies still like it. That's an innuendo, in case you didn't know. But yes, I'm currently in Melfort right now. Melfort, Saskatchewan.
Why?
For the past week. Oh, I'm visiting my grandmother. I need to spend another week to make sure that I'm not contagious before I go home. I'm not symptomatic, I promise. But I was told something horrible today by my grandma, that house hippos do not exist. I'm like, no! They house hippos totally do exist. They're just critically endangered, that's all. With all the peanut allergies, we've taken away their main food source, peanut butter and crumbs off of toast. And we're encroaching on their habitat. Hashtag house hippos are real. I'm just working through some new stuff here, you know. Actually, I am a huge comedian, I'm not gonna lie. I could swiftly walk into someone and end their existence. Just ask my grandmother. That's okay. My grandma still loves me. I know this because I've seen her profile on Tinder. Oh, man, I'll always be her her life insurance beneficiary. Her swipe right. I can't stress enough how awkward this is with talking about this with no direct audience.
I just want to say I'm on my phone, but nobody can yell at me. So sorry, I wasn't paying attention for 2 seconds there.
Oh boy, yeah, I know we're all just trying to keep busy, and you know.
Oh, there's a joke there somewhere. You said like I was driving around, the streets were empty, there was nobody anywhere, and I thought, wow, some quarantine, huh? And then I remembered, oh no, I'm just an helper.
I know we're trying to keep busy, but yeah, I'm just spending time with Grandma, and so we spend a lot of time watching TV these days. Oh, that's an experience. Oh boy, we were at commercial time, and you know, she must want great grandchildren before she turns 75 or something, because she pauses it and she looks at me and goes, Preston, have you ever considered getting a black girlfriend? Boy, yes, grandmother. That's very progressive of you. We're getting you a color TV next time, okay? Stop playing with the tint shading. It's weird. Oh man, I love watching TV with my grandma. You know, she loves watching true crime shows, and I don't get the appeal. Like, that's a higher level of court for me. Like, during the show, I'm just I could spoil the ending of this show for you. This is real. This happened. I can tell you the ending right now. Oh. But no, I can't do that. Commercials are fun too with her. I see Milkbone says there are no bad dogs, only bored dogs. No, that's absolutely right. There are no bad dogs, but there are bad cats. Oh man, there are commercials with Jennifer Aniston and her dog, and they're in bed, and the dog has a sleeping mask, and I ask Grandma, why does the dog need a mask? What's wrong with her? I see Save on Foods' new slogan is, we're going the extra mile. Oh, does that mean they're going to pay the employees extra? Are they going to set up protective barriers at the tills? How far are they going? I talk all the time during the show. I see Cadillac has their service providers in these trying times at the ready. Shouldn't they always be at the ready? I see an XL commercial with a lady knocking at the door wanting to introduce herself to the guy's roommate. And I'm like, don't let her in. She's an assassin. My grandma says I'm not allowed to talk when the TV is on anymore, and I can't blame her. But, okay, one more. Like, I see hair commercials say these days that smooth hair doesn't have to be straight. Again, absolutely right. Smooth hair can be absolutely gay if it wants to be.
Nice.
Oh, and dreads can be dreadly if they want to. Wavy hair can be
dreadly.
Wavy hair is kinky, and curly is just deviant. Oh. Again, I'm not allowed to talk with her while the TV is on anymore. But you know what? Yeah, I don't write as many jokes as the average comedian does. I like to believe that it's quality over quantity. But I also don't exercise much either. I believe that my body wants quantity over quality in that case. But You know what? My name is Preston Fontana. I may be below average in height, but I'm way above average in weight. I'm gonna, yay! I'm gonna.
Way to go, Preston.
Good
The
job,
North
Preston.
American house
Thanks for
hippo
bringing
is
your
my
earphones,
spirit
bud.
animal. Huh? What?
Guess
Yeah,
who's
I
next,
think I'm gonna
Fabian?
sign off now. That's about all I had written down for tonight. You
Thanks,
guys
buddy.
have been great. On to the next.
Thanks, buddy.
Preston.
Fabian,
Fabian.
are you ready?
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. Okay.
All right, here is Saskatoon's one-liner comic, Fabian Dray.
Yeah.
Hey, guys. Call me a one-liner comic because I can never do just one line. But fucking chloroquine there. That's that's the first name of the last native woman I had sex with. So she had to take Fabian. Chloroquine had to take Fabian in this time of need.
My computer.
So anyways, I'm pretty sure the cure for COVID-19 is to wipe your bum with toilet paper. Like that's the cure. But this is probably the first time, well, for me anyways, it was the first time I found myself trying to convince a hooker to wear a condom. Are there any deaf people out there? Are there any deaf people in the audience today? Hey, can we just agree to stop eating bats? It shouldn't be that hard of a thing to ask people to not do, I think. Eat bats. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do what I was doing while I had your time. I'm going to talk to everyone. Sarah, how you doing?
Good. I actually have news for you. Kind of not so good. I asked for a layoff today.
Why would you do that at this time of need? That's why?
Because I caught a cold and I couldn't go to work anyways. And then I thought, if we're being so careful at work and I still caught a cold, if I stay at work, I'm going to catch corona and I'm going to kill my mom. So that was my thought process there.
Sarah, what do you do? Where?
I work at a pizza place.
Nothing now.
Yeah, nothing now. Now I'm a full-time student.
No, now
Yeah,
the government will
right.
give you $2,000 a month. They start next week. Look into
Keep rolling with the jokes, Fabe.
Okay, yeah, keep going with the jokes.
Okay, and then I got Semchuk there. You're pretty that good roll you went on there at the start. That was nice.
Thanks.
That went well. I think Trevor gave you a total of 1 minute.
I thought that went terrible, to tell you the truth, but
Oh, it did.
fine.
It did.
yeah, no, thanks for being nice, but let's all agree that was just total.
Great to see all the new jokes you guys have written in this time.
That was
business.
horrible. That was by far.
Okay, keep rolling, Fabian.
Yeah,
You can do it. You can do it.
So I don't believe in Freudian slips. I think everyone wants to fuck their father and fight their mother. Here's the thing. Like I heard a milk truck hit a cow. The chance of it happening again, 2%. Hey, get this one. No homo. No homo. So got in a fight last night. It was 4 versus 100. Toughest 4 guys we ever fought. Tough guys. So yeah, still, come on, stop eating bats, guys. Fucking, okay. Well, I was a pretty bad heroin addict there. I haven't done it, Sarah. I haven't done any heroin.
Good boy. I'm so proud of you.
I basically switched that with crack. So now I'm basically just a crackhead.
Well, could be worse.
Yeah, you're far more
but
fun
here's
when
the
you smoke crack than when you do heroin. Most people are.
Well, you gotta. Anyways, so fucking. I used to do so many drugs. I fucked 4 guys for their 8 balls. But fucking, what else we got here? Chris Benoit.
Onion tart.
No.
Onion tart. Onion tart. Onion tart.
Onion tart.
Onion tart. Onion tart.
Well, you know what though? Like, I was thinking. I've been doing a lot of time like reminiscing lately, and I was thinking about the time where like I was growing up in kindergarten in the flesh, or like when I was growing up. And when I was in kindergarten, I was in a place called Loon Lake, Saskatchewan, and I was the fucking cool kid there. I know what that feels like.
Doubt it.
Oh, it was great. I remember at the one party we were at, the mother, she didn't have cake and said she gave all the kids those things are called goodies or whatever. They're like black licorice with sprinkles. All you could hear was like a bunch of 6-year-old kids going, what the hell is this? But then black licorice. Who all likes black licorice here? Tell me if you like it, say yes. I don't get it because black licorice to me is like what someone who's like 80 who can't taste onions anymore would have to eat. You know, black licorice.
Keep rolling with the one-liners, buddy.
I'm going to do that. Yeah, okay, I will, man. Oh, you just want one-liners? You don't think that was a new joke I tried writing?
No. Although that was a really well-crafted joke.
Okay, jeez. I'll tell you. Torn stars fall, heels over head. They say Saskatchewan has the highest HIV rate in Canada. So that's why every time I fuck a guy in the ass, I make him wear a condom.
So much for this being a clean show.
Well, you want one-liners? I'll give you some fucking one-liners. Sorry. I don't fucking know. I'm flustered now. So that's what's going on here. You guys want more one-liners? Or what's going on here?
Give me a couple more.
There's been absolutely no flow in this. I learned how to make a hard-on last. Just don't fuck with it. I learned how to make a vagina dry. You just date me. I was saying about the difference between here and there. I've got it down to a T. I think that herpes is sexist towards women. It should be his piece. Or else maybe it's transgender thing. Maybe it should be their piece. It should be their piece.
Well, because you share it.
So onion tart, I hear.
Good job, Fabian.
It's like that chick's cock was huge, but you should have seen the size of tits on that dude.
Thanks, buddy.
You're getting cut off, Fabes.
Oh, that's fine.
All right.
I'm going to run one of these soon, too.
Next, we have a special...
Thanks, Trevor, for having me, Trevor.
Thanks, buddy. Next, we have a
Sorry if I interrupted you there.
Stop.
Next, we have a special guest that is from Chicago. He's been a guest on the radio show, and he isn't a comedian per se. He is a comedy magician, and he's got some great stuff. And he's also a voiceover artist from Chicago. Welcome, Zack Percell.
Woo!
How's it going, Zack?
I'm doing great. How about yourselves?
Good.
Excellent. Yeah, as Trevor said, only one as I'm a comedy magician from a city called Rockford, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. And I think last time I talked to you, Trevor, the thing I was most scared about was the fact that I lived in one of the crime capitals of Illinois. Now, scary, but we're gonna have some fun tonight.
And Zack,
yeah.
Forget me.
But my camera's not working.
This is an interactive show, so you will need help from the audience, correct?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Zack. The floor is yours.
Okay, cool. All right, sounds good. You know, when Trevor asked me the other day to come on here and perform for you, being a comedy magician, that translates best probably for is probably material. So I decided I'm going to go big. I'm going to go grand. Starting off, let's start with a card trick. It's about as big as it gets for you tonight. So I'm going to.
How do we make him bigger?
Obviously, I can't have somebody pick a card, so we're going to kind of do this through. I have Sarah. I see the name Sarah. Can you help me?
First off, Lachlan, push mute.
Okay. All right. So, Sarah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you first of all, the deck is kind of set up. I've got one card face down, the rest are face up, and I'll show you that in a minute. Just take my word for it for now. I know that doesn't mean coming from a magician. I'm going to put the cards inside the box, and I'll set the box on top of the Rubik's Cube so you can see it.
Never dings when it's near me.
What?
Said my phone never dings when it's near me.
Show you the back of his any card. Ha 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 ha. There's no jokers in the deck. That's Fabian. He's the joker here. I want you to imagine that melting for a whole bunch of the other cards. In fact, you imagine the entire deck shuffling, so your card could be anywhere at all, top, bottom, middle, doesn't matter. And then finally, I want you to imagine the entire deck jumping out of the wooden box and landing right here in my hand. Right here in my hand. Whoop. Oh, no, actually, it landed in this hand. That's the wrong hand. Don't worry, that's not the trick. That would suck. Got the deck here. I want you, we didn't talk beforehand, right? We've never met before.
No, never.
We're thinking of a card, right? For the first time. Oh, here, actually, I'll show you, too, that the cards are not in here anymore.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Well, now the card that you were thinking of for the first time out loud, we need to prove that it was your imagination that got the cards from the box into my hand. What was the card you were thinking of?
Oh, my God. 7 of spades?
7 of spades.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very fair, very deliberate. Watch close. Make sure I don't do any tricky moves or sleight of hand. I don't turn anything over. I'm just going to show you the entire deck. All the cards are face up except for one card.
Put it down a little bit, yeah.
A little closer here.
Perfect.
All the cards are face up except for one card. You thought of the 7 of spades?
No! No way. That's awesome.
Very nice.
Little bit of firm up there. I put the cards on top of the cube. The reason I did that is because, well, I'm going to show you something with it. You guys call it a Rubik's Cube. I call it, or actually my friend Amanda in high school, you sarcastically call it my chick magnet cube. But what did she call it? She called it my friend zone cube. But I've been trying for years to do solve the cube at a record speed, but every time I get close, some kid in like Australia or Asia beats the record. It's at like 3.5 seconds right now. I'm going to try to do it just a little bit faster. I don't know if this is going to work or not, but let's see. Oh boy, I don't know if this is going to work. Yes, let's try it. All I have to do is blow on it. There we go, that quick. All 6 sides. Now, wow. I'm the one who mixed it and I used magic. So I'm going to actually do this having you guys help me mix it. So if I were to do a real mix like this, just a regular mix, and now you guys aren't going to believe me that I'm really mixing it. So I'm going to have, let's see, I'll start with Joel. I got the top. I've got my right, left, bottom. Which side do you want me to turn? Front, back? What do you want me to turn?
It would be bottom right. You're right. The green.
Bottom?
Yeah, there.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And then another side. I can do any side, whatever. Somebody say a side. Jerry, say a side.
The left side.
The left side. Okay. Toward. Which way?
Turn
Left.
it forward.
Oh.
Yeah.
You got it. You read my mind too. He's a psychic.
Bunch of sides. Just...
Oh, now he's doing a Rubik's Cube.
Somebody just got here. All right.
Woo!
Here, just any side. Yeah. Okay. Shoot a side. Top, bottom. What do you think, Trevor?
Top.
Top. Okay. Like this or like that?
To the right.
To the right. Okay. Like mine. Okay. 1 or 2 turns or 3 turns or.
2's good.
Two's good. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, we're just doing this so there's absolutely no way I could know how we were going to turn it, right?
Right.
Just mix up on all the sides. Now, I'm going to try to solve the cube. I'm going to leave it right there for just a second with one hand in less than 10 seconds while blindfolded, okay? That's what I'm going to try to do. I've got a blindfold in this bag. I'm going to put the blindfold on. Won't be able to see a thing, and I'm going to solve it with one hand. Oh, yeah. I can... No, that would just be weird. My surgical mask, I wore that to Walmart today, okay? You know what? Since I don't have the I'll use the bag instead. So we're going to take the cube, put it inside the bag, and I'm going to solve it with one hand in less than 10 seconds. Blindfolded. I don't know if you guys are timing me or not, but it goes inside the bag, and believe it or not, and there it is, almost completely solved on all 6 sides, which would be really, really good if the mixed cube wasn't still inside the bag. It would be really good. So, really am going to solve the cube with one hand in less than 10 seconds while blindfolded. But before I do, I'm going to show you something even more amazing than that. What could possibly be more amazing than that? Can you see the silver bag?
Yeah.
This has been hanging up here the entire time. throughout the entire performance since I started. Actually, it's been there all day. Earlier on today, I held actually the cube that's inside this bag. There's a cube in here. I held it in my hand, closed my eyes, and I had what I call a Jedi moment, a vision of the future. I was able to see myself mixing the cube according to what you guys told me and what I did. And so I started to mix this cube using the exact same movements that I used to mix this, which means that if my prediction is correct, the cube inside this bag should match this cube right here. Color for color, side for side, which is possible. Does anybody know how many different possible ways there are to mix a Rubik's Cube?
Like
A million.
46 quintillion.
So many.
Yes, it's over 43 quintillion. That's a million times different ways to mix a Rubik's Cube. I believe this one matches this one completely. Let's take a look. There is side number 1, side number 2, side number 3, side number 4. The bottom is side number 5. And the top is side number 6.
Wow.
There we go.
Wow.
Yeah. Usually what I do actually shows I hand it out for somebody else. It's a little bit more impressive, but the result is the same. So that's all 6 sides, completely mixed. Now, I don't want these cubes to go out of your sight, because what I'm actually going to do right now is I am going to do what I promised. I'm going to try to solve the cube with one hand in less than 10 seconds while blindfolded. But I've got 2 cubes and I've got 2 hands. I was doing this in the last show that I did. Somebody said to me, well, why don't you just solve them both? Why not, right? I'll solve them both at the same time. Oh, thank you. All right, my wife, she handed me her blindfold. She actually has a blindfold for me. I have to borrow hers. Yeah, we'll use this one. In a second, I'm going to cover my eyes with the blindfold. I'm going to say, on your mark, get set, go. When I do, I'm going to have you guys count backwards. 10, 9, 8, and 7. I'm going to move this little stand out of the way that's holding it up in the camera view. And I'm going to try to have both cubes solved before you get to 1. Normally, I do this in 15 seconds. I'm going to try 10 tonight. So let's see what happens. I'm going to try to keep these on camera in the camera view. And here we go. Cover my eyes. Can you guys see them where they are?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. On your mark, get set, go.
10,
9, 8,
7, 6, 5, 4,
3, 2, 1, 0.
Is that it? That's both of them. Sides. There we go.
Wow.
Well done.
Normally,
I just have one question, Zach.
Yeah.
How often do you borrow your wife's blindfold?
I'm pleading the fifth. But she borrows mine too. So.
So where can people find you if they want more information?
If you want more information on me for some reason after this, then you can find me at my website, www.tnz. It's kind of like TMZ, but with an N instead of an M. TNZ Magic. I came along before. I've been around for 30-something years, so doing this stuff.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Thanks,
yeah.
Zach.
Hey, thank you very much. And I wish I could hand these. That's what I do at the end after.
All right. Two comics left. Next, we've got Mr. Shawn Cuthand.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Woo! You know, I'm just chilling out, being an essential guy, home alone on a Saturday night. You know, I wish I could go back like 10 years and then let my dad know that I'd be an essential worker. Then maybe he wouldn't tell me that I was wasting my life so much, you know? Like, damn. If only I could turn back time. But man, like, even though I live alone, even though I live alone, do I still have to wash my hands every time I touch myself? Like, it doesn't seem very essential of me, you know? But okay, so WrestleMania this year is being broadcast at their training center with no crowd. Like having WrestleMania without the crowd is like having Rice Krispies without the snap, crackle, and pop. You know, like it's the same, but it's not. And then you end up feeling like a loner at the end. But you know, like before all this like Corona crap, you know, like Rage Against the Machine was gonna be reuniting. You know, like that would have been exciting to me like 20 years ago. Like, but I'm just not raging against the machine anymore. You know, like now I'm a piece of the machine and I collect a paycheck, but it just doesn't add up. But I'm gonna get a little poetic here for a second. You know, like, you know when someone like mocks your laughter, like say you're with a bunch of friends and all of a sudden someone just like starts mocking you and is like, you know, like what an asshole thing to do, you know, like, but you know, mocking someone's laughter, that's like kicking the sandcastle to the soul. You know? Oh, you see my microphone?
Sorry,
so,
go on.
So I was wondering, you know, like I find it really annoying when I hang out with my lactose cousins because like they're always in denial of their intolerance. It's like my one cousin will eat like a whole extra large Blizzard and then all of a sudden be like, oops, I'm lactose. So then now I'm just dealing with the smell of hard-boiled eggs for the next hour. It's just like, what's going on here? Some sort of poultry geist? But then like, you know, like my cousins, one of them still tries to enjoy pizza and they'll order a pizza without the cheese. So then we're just having this party at grandma's house and all these pizzas show up and one of them just shows up looking like Hannibal Lecter's next victim. It's like, what is this? Silence of the Hams? Oh man. My dog is like getting old right now. Like she's losing her senses. And I have these banisters on the floor. And all of a sudden one morning I just came out and I smelled like burning hair. I thought I was gonna have a seizure or something. But then all of a sudden I came into the living room and my dog's just lying against the banister. So all I could do, she can't even hear me. I'm just standing there like, Shanae, you're burning! Shanae, you're burning! But let's see. How much time do I got?
Another minute.
Okay, so yeah, there's this one time I was up in Banff on a big party bender and I was looking for this bar called the Devil's Gap. And then like it took us forever to find it. So when we finally did, we were just really loaded. And when we got there, like we were just like, this bar was just real deadly. Like it was just our style. And like I went around and it looked like there was a lot more going on. Like it looked like there was almost another side, you know? So I went wandering around to try and find this other side. And all of a sudden, like the bouncer started like following me. And I went down this hallway and he followed me down the hallway and he's like, hey, yo, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm just trying to find the other side. And he just like gives me this look like he's all puzzled about why this native guy's just on a spiritual journey in his bar all of a sudden. But then finally he goes out and I'm like, no, like over there, like how do you get to the other side? And he's like, buddy, that's a mirror over there. And I was just like, holy cow. And then for the rest of the night, I was just playing Bloody Mary with the mirror all night. Thank you. That's my time. Woo!
Yeah.
All right.
Woo!
Saving the best. saving the
That was
best.
fucking weird.
Thanks, buddy. Saving the best for last from his home in Los Angeles.
Get down.
He is the founder of the Stand-Up Comedy Clinic. He's wrote the movie Stretch, former writer for The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. Here is our headliner, Jerry Corley.
Thanks for having me on. You guys hear me okay and all that stuff?
Yep.
Stretch. Was that Steve Bart?
I know Stretch is Patrick Wilson, Ray Liotta, Jessica Alba.
Sweet. Cool.
A couple of cool people
Sorry.
like that. No, it's all right. So I decided to just kind of check in, and because Trevor asked me if I would participate, and it's not like I'm going anywhere here in LA. Neither because of the shelter or because of my career. But I thought, I think it's really cool what we're doing is we're now, a crisis presents opportunity, right? So now we've got all these comics now meeting virtually online. They're doing their mics. It's no different than a regular mic. It's like 17, I saw there were 17 people on. That's like better than any mic in LA. It's more people showing up to the virtual mics than they are showing up at the regular mics. And to be quite honest, I haven't done an open mic in it has to be 15 to 20 years, because mostly it's just I'm invited to do a show somewhere or something like that. But this is cool. So I'm going to actually use the open mic to kind of run some new material, just some little jokes. Of course, I heard everybody did everybody do coronavirus jokes tonight?
Yeah, well, mostly I think, yeah.
It's what's in the news. It's like you have to cover. So what I love is about the like in here in the States. By the way, the reason I was here wasn't even to do the mic. I was just trying to find out how I could get in some of that $2,000 a month. You guys
I'll let you know when I find out.
Yeah, if it actually comes through, right? Because here in the States, man, we don't know what the fuck they're doing. It's like we hear different thing all the. Have you guys heard this? Were you guys hearing don't wear a mask? It doesn't do any good. You heard that, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear that? Because we get that news. Don't wear a mask. It doesn't do any good. And then they put on this medical professional from Cedars-Sinai Hospital down here in LA, and he was like describing. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the CEO of Cedars-Sinai. Just some tips. If you're going to the doctor, make sure you call ahead. Don't wear a mask. It doesn't do any good. If you are symptomatic, then that's a good time to wear a mask so that other people don't get it. But don't wear a mask. It doesn't do any good. You see, the flu, the coronavirus travels through water droplets in the air. So that's why doctors wear masks, because they're around people who sneeze and cough all day. But don't wear a mask. It doesn't do any good." That doesn't make any sense. Makes no sense. So I was like, what do you mean? You just said the mask works, but only for doctors. So don't wear a mask. Why would they tell us not to wear a mask? The reason was, I was thinking, I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist. I was like, I'm thinking the reason why they told us this is because they don't want us to buy all the masks so that the medical professionals didn't have them. And so I said that to my wife. She goes, "You're always making up this shit." No, they said it doesn't. Masks don't work, and that her dad's a doctor, right? So she's buying into that whole bullshit. And then I just saw Dr. Fauci. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he is the head infectious disease guy here in the United States. He's been at the White House since Reagan was president. So the guy's got some chops, right? He's like, and he was actually on Lily Singh on YouTube, and she was interviewing him. And I swear to God, I saw this. It's about a 15-minute clip. She's interviewing Dr. Fauci. And I got more information from that interview than I did from any Trump press conference the entire time. I was just like, holy shit, I'm getting more info here than I did that guy. But so she said, so do the masks work or don't they work? And she got him laughing. So he was like, all his defenses dropped. And he goes, well, yeah, wearing a mask would be a good idea. Well, the reason why we told people not to wear masks is because we didn't want the public buying up all the masks so that they wouldn't be there for the health professionals. So so I recorded this shit because basically it is the White House telling a lie. Now, just today we saw the Surgeon General on Fox News, and he said, well, the reason we said no masks because that we were going with the science, we're going with the science and the facts, and they're still trying to sell that angle that it was about, that's what the science was telling us, but it doesn't make any sense. So don't listen to and then I don't know if you guys know this, but it's a shit show down here. It is in Washington. It's a complete shit show. You got Donald Trump, who has the lead infectious disease guy right there. And you know who he puts in charge of the pandemic response team? His son-in-law, Jared Kushner. That's like, you know, you're flying on a jet, and all of a sudden you hear they go, ladies and gentlemen, this is your first officer speaking. The captain has just had a heart attack and died. So I have this 8-year-old fly next to me. It's cool. He's my sister's son. It's like the stupidest. I don't know if you guys are paying attention. It's like stupid down here. It's like I've never seen such chaos in my life. And here we are. God, has to be definitely the biggest crisis in my lifetime, besides my 2 divorces. And I have 5 kids. I don't know if you know 5 kids because I'm only half Mormon. And I've got 5 kids from I got 5 kids from 3 different moms. So there's the judgment. I hear it. Always hear the judgment in the silence, right? Now, that's what people are. They're like, oh yes, why are these people? That guy, I think he's Chinese. Don't say anything. He might be over here. But that's, we always see the judgment in the silence. So it's like, so 5 kids from 3 different moms, because I couldn't figure out I couldn't figure out relationships. And that's like pretty much like everybody in this room. And now it's like my first 2, I was married to 2 ladies, and then not at the same time. And now I have 5 kids. My oldest son is 26. My girlfriend's 25. I'm kidding. I don't have a 25-year-old girlfriend. She's 24, and she's not that I'm into that or anything. I just need somebody to help me with Instagram. And anyway, so they were. They're saying we need to like shelter at home, right? Is everybody sheltering at home? Do you guys have the same thing going on up there in Canada? Shelter at home. It's like that's the rule. Shelter at home. In LA, they call it safer at home. Unless you're in Compton, they just call it get the fuck out. But then it's at home. So everybody's home all day, all night with your family. Experts are already saying the next pandemic is going to be divorce. So looking forward to that one. Did somebody already do that joke tonight? And my wife, I don't know if you know this, my wife is a commercial airline pilot. She's still working, going out there, you know, despite COVID-19, she's out there risking exposure every day, flying people around the country. So when she gets home and walks through that door, my heart soars when she says those magical 3 words, I tested negative. So now here's something I thought was interesting. I was asking questions as I was writing some COVID-19 jokes. And first of all, I sort of ran through one idea, which was one thing that got me started was the top 10 alternatives to toilet paper. And did anybody have any idea? Did you guys run out up there in Canada? Yeah. Did you run out of toilet paper? Do you have the same issue? It's like, did people run out and buy toilet paper like crazy in Canada?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know. What the hell was that? It's like, don't they know that's like, they were running out and buying. My neighbor was like, I said, yeah, is everything, because I checked with my neighbors. I go, you guys all right? I said, what are you going to do? You know, one guy was like, yep. I said, what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to go down to the store, get me some toilet paper and some guns. So I'm going over later. We're going to shoot the shit. And thank you for that response to that pun. So the question was, I had this question of, I was watching CNN. They had this expert actually said that one of the, a good alternative to toilet paper is like, if you're out of toilet paper, just go find some, papers that no longer have value. So I'm wiping my ass with my stock certificates, and because the market's going to shit too. So one of the questions I had is like, we had the post-war babies. They were called baby boomers. I was wondering what the post-COVID-19 babies will be called. What will they name that generation? Anybody willing to chime in on that?
Toilet papers.
What?
Toilet paper generation.
The toilet paper generation? All right,
The TPG.
The quarantine generation. That has
quarantines. Yeah, there's
anything's better than hipster.
That's a good one. Somebody else had put in coronials. I thought that was interesting. Doomers. That's a good one. And somebody actually, like us, he said Zoomers. So I thought there was a little poll I put on Twitter and came back with some cool answers. I thought it'd be great to just call them Baby Jesus, because with all this, the social distancing, it had to be immaculate conception, right?
Yeah.
It takes a moment sometimes for some people. It's a bit. I just wrote this the other day. Somebody said I need to write some jokes about cats. So I just started writing some facts about cats, and I read that cats sleep 17 to 18 hours a day to conserve energy, which is cool. So now I understand my teenage daughter. She's just been studying to be a conservationist. Let's see what else. What else do I have? It's like, this thing was. They said COVID-19 is actually super, super contagious. It's the most contagious virus we've had to deal with. So they say, besides "I love you," anybody remember the "I love you" virus from 2001? Mm-hmm. Infected like 10% of all the computers in the world. Anybody remember that one? Nobody? Okay,
yep,
well,
I do.
COVID-19 is the most infective human virus, and it's so contagious, they say you can get it from somebody by just talking to them.
Oh, sorry.
Nice. No, it didn't like the cat joke, I'm guessing. I was and I'm thinking, just talking to him, because I was talking to a student yesterday, and she sneezed, and I got it. And we were on Zoom. See, that's how contagious it is, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody got that except for a couple people. That's good.
Okay, stop it now.
So I've been, not lately, but I do travel a lot. And recently I was in, I don't know if you guys in the States, been to the South. I was in Alabama. We got somebody from Alabama right there. Do you fuck your sister too? So yeah, this bitch does. How'd you know? Anyway, so I was so in Alabama, and it's the South, known as kind of like the Deep South. And I was there almost late for the show because I realized there's a time change, and I forgot to set my watch back 100 years. And then I don't know if you guys know this about Alabama. They're not very advanced. Like if you have an iPhone, they can only get 3G there. Only 3G in Alabama, because even their smartphones are being held back. So my point is, they're not very bright, is what I'm trying to say. Hey, you guys are responding pretty well. Boy, it's different. Man, I feel this awkward being at a regular mic too, trust me. This is like, normally I'm at a show, there's people, all kinds of people there, but this is actually a fun experiment you're doing, Trevor Dean. Do you want me to keep going, Trevor? Or do you want me to just stop right there?
Sure.
All right, so I was originally, I live in LA now. I'm originally from New York. I was born in New York City. I was born in a tough neighborhood in New York City. My brother and I used to deliver newspapers. It took both of us. We'd be like, I'm going to that house, cover me. But what I learned in being in New York is, what we don't have in New York is Mormons. Are there any Mormons in the Zoom room today?
Trevor?
No.
No? Okay, good. Let's talk about these people, shall we? Now, color me ignorant when it comes to the Mormons. I don't know much about the Mormon faith. Like I said, we didn't have any Mormons in New York City. I think they would be shot. And not just because they're Mormon. I think any religion that facilitates knocking on someone's door at 7 o'clock in the morning, you pretty much increase your chance of getting a love tap by a 357 in the city. That's all I'm saying. But at least Mormons, they won't knock on your door unless your address is affiliated in one way, shape, or form with the church. I don't know if you know that. Jehovah's Witnesses, however, are like random door knockers, aren't they? They show up at anybody's house. And they come to my house where I live in LA. And I live in what's called a gated community. Trailer Estate Park. It's a triple wide. So it's got a slider, got 15 extra square feet in the summers. So
that was funny.
Jehovah's, and I don't know if you know much about Jehovah's Witnesses. You guys have them in Canada. I'm sure they're all over these days. They spread as much as the virus. And I think they're international too. So they show up to your house, and you know they're Jehovah's because they give you that magazine, you know, the Watchtower magazine. And I'm thinking that's what our neighborhood needs, a fucking Watchtower with a guy going, Jehovah's are here, get the hell out. But they show up, and you know, there's a simple way to get rid of them. They show up they'll come to the house and go, you know, they knock on the door, you tell it's Watchtower. I always say this, it works every time. Look at them right in the eye, take their paraphernalia, their propaganda, and you look at them and go, why would I take on your religion when I have a perfectly fine religion I don't believe in? They don't know how to respond to that question. That's why there takes two of them to come to the door, because they're looking for a lifeline. I don't know if you guys ever got that show in Canada, so I could have wasted that joke. What else did but I was in, here's where I was recently. I was in last 2 months ago, I was in Louisville, Kentucky. We got any Kentucky people? Anybody ever been to Kentucky? Louisville, Kentucky, not a bright area. I think they're ranked, we got 50 states, they're ranked 49th in education in Louisville. And I was there for 3 weeks doing a show there at a club called Duh. Actually 3 clubs in Louisville, Duh, Huh, and Duh was actually the A club. And, but I was there 3 weeks, and I got arrested. I got arrested in Louisville, Kentucky. Evidently, I tried to smuggle in some grammar, and I was guilty. And then, so I remember what happened. What was weird was after I did the show, this guy who runs the showroom comes up to me and says, hey, man, come party with us, which was weird because he was by himself. And so he took me and this other comedian.
Dying over here.
Took me and this other comedian to this strip club in Louisville, Kentucky. It's like, let me say that again, a strip club in Louisville, Kentucky. These were the ugliest strippers I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, I love strippers, but I think that if you're working in this industry, your body should be in some sort of shape, and not the shape of a rhombus. I figure rhombus is easier to say than on a two-segment equilateral parallelogram. And I mean, they were nice and everything, but and like I said, I respect the hell out of anybody who does that. They're entertainers too, just like we are. But some of these gals, like, you know, if you're doing comedy, you should have some skills and some craft. And some of these girls were not looking good. They looked like they had C-sections, but were never pregnant. You follow me? You giggled, but it was like a smiley face with a goatee. It was because it was, you know, they were all from the 80s, I think. And it was like the music's playing. And the girl's like, you're trying to help them out. You're like, come on, Ellie Mae, 2, 4, 2, 4, nothing doing. Well, they know the bald guy. I think the other bald guy knows, right? They know the bald guy. They're sitting there and they're like, I'm sitting at the end. They put us at the end of this like stage, this runway thing, and they're feeding us drinks. And this girl and I think it was my forehead. The light was shining off the forehead into their eyes. And I think she's like, follow the light, made a beeline right for me. And there were dudes on the rail with money in her teeth going, LMA over here. But they came to me. And she comes right up to me. She goes, hi, my name's Peaches. I'm thinking fuzzy fruit at this point. And so she says, I said, hi, how you doing? Nice to meet you. And she turns around, puts her butt in my face. I mean, what kind of manners is that? And she actually said, and I think the guy, the club owner's like sending shots over. I think I was on my like 6th shot of like doers. And I'm at that point. You ever get to that point? You're on that line between the ocean and the sand. You're like in reality, then you're floating, then you're in reality, then you're I was like there. You know what I'm saying? And she goes, she turns around, shows me her ass, and she goes, have you ever seen a nicer ass? I'm a comedian. I said, honey, I've seen nicer asses pulling a plow. So I'm in jail, and that's actually what happened in Louisville, Kentucky. So did I get everybody to hate me already? Is that what happened?
I like that Kentucky. Can I make a Kentucky joke I just thought of?
What's that?
Can I tell a Kentucky joke I just thought of?
Absolutely.
I dated a girl from Kentucky. She had great breasts, nice thighs, but she had chicken legs.
That's good. I like that.
She was a little bit salty.
She was a little salty. Yeah.
And crispy.
She burned very quickly in the summer. Yeah.
Finger looking good though.
Yeah, finger looking good. Somebody came out with that. Had that chicken.
Yeah.
Chicken wing.
You don't lick the fingers.
Nice. Somebody's giving that.
That was the LA contingency, Jerry.
What's that?
That was the LA contingency.
What? That said that somebody's licking their fingers? What? Who else is from LA? I know Dawn is.
Looks like Joe's here and Keith.
Keith's there too?
Yep.
Oh, sweet.
You guys got a party going on over there too.
Yeah, how sweet is that? I got a few people. Like Dawn messaged me earlier. It's like she's here. Joel is here. Is that Joel or Joe?
Give me some last names here. Do I?
There's a Tim here. There's a let's see. I see Joe Dungan. Joe's here. Keith Tyler's here.
Dungy.
Yeah, Joe Dungan is one of the instructors at your school, right?
Yeah. I'm glad Joe joined after he taught a class, and then he's here. That's awesome.
How has the with the pandemic going on? How has it affected your school, your classes?
I moved. I had some classes going on. I moved them online. So that's actually going pretty well, and for the most part. It's a little different like it is now, right? We get to work on the mechanics of the jokes. And I think the good part is you're getting comedians to get used to talking to a camera like it's a person. So it's going to help them in their commercials. If they're doing commercial work, it's going to help them be relaxed in a camera, still feel normal staring at the camera. Because you remember, if you look at people's selfies, they're never looking in the camera. They're always looking at themselves. So the selfies always look a little awkward. But if you get used to talking to the camera, it's a valuable tool. And especially with what's that?
You got to learn on the fly there too. I like that.
Yeah. You got to sort of, and plus it puts you in an awkward state. So you're not used to it. So you can get used to working with your material while you're just kind of looking at a camera. So you get good practice. Yeah. And with all the new platforms coming out, with TikTok blowing up, with you have IG stories now going on. You've got any video on like Twitter, or if people are doing YouTube, getting used to looking at the camera and getting comfortable doing this stuff, because this is like the future, right? So this is a great opportunity for comedians and performers to get comfortable doing something like this online. And a big hand for Trevor. That's so cool that you're actually running this thing. I was surprised that there were actually 17, 18 people here. So good for you, man.
There you go, Trevor.
Thanks. Any comics have questions for Jerry?
What's your school called again?
It's called Stand-Up Comedy Clinic.
And that's where you met Trevor, eh?
Yeah, I met Trevor there. Yeah, it's like plus I got if you check out Jerry Corley on YouTube, I've got a whole bunch of videos on there. Instructions.
So I can watch the videos for free instead of getting paid for the school.
Yeah, totally.
Nice.
Yeah. And there's not. I don't just put on teaser shit. I put on just full.
Sure, I'll check it out.
I put out the info, man. And
nice. Look up Gap Tooth Productions. Look up Gap Tooth Productions.
Gap Tooth.
Yeah, Gap Tooth Productions. There, it's my production company here. It's Sarah and I run that. It's in Saskatoon here.
Fabian? What's the joke you made about your tax? You're filing your taxes about the money made in comedy.
Wasn't a joke.
Oh, I thought it was. What was it that you said?
It's like, why is
that? I said I did my taxes. I made nearly $33,000 doing comedy. That means I spent $33,000 on heroin.
Did you break even or break a vein, Fabian?
Oh, jeez. That was a tough shot right there, Preston. That was a tough shot.
He really stuck it to you.
Yeah, you did.
Yep. You can expect a lot of needling, you know.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's the last thing I needle.
Are you a Narcan or a Narcan?
Jerry, are all the clubs in LA like what's all open in LA right now?
Everything's shut down. None of it's considered essential services.
Well, I believe you, but we talked to this guy, Trevor?
That guy's name was Keith or something like that.
Keith Tyler.
Keith Dungan or something like
that.
Well, that's before. Yeah, it changes day to day.
Keith, there's my guy.
It was
really.
It was. They were like okay, no meetings of over 50 people, so they made adjustments for that. And then they say okay, no meetings of over 10 people, so they made adjustments to that. And they were saying, and then they the very next day they changed it to no essential services have to be closed. So
and now they're saying don't wear masks for real.
What's that?
They're saying you don't have to wear masks and shit.
Well, they were saying that right at the beginning. They say if you don't have it, don't wear masks. It doesn't do any good. And it was all a lie.
Well, it wasn't a lie. They thought it was acting like a normal virus, but now they think it might be a little bit more airborne than it was.
It was a flat-out lie, because even Dr. Fauci came out and said it was a lie.
Left-wing politics.
CDC is saying.
Yeah, our infectious disease, the lead on the infectious disease thing at the White House.
That's what that was a lie.
Nobody knows anything. It's a new thing, right? So
the reason we said this was because so we didn't want people running out buying masks so that the medical professionals didn't have any. So when he said that, it was pretty clear.
For bandana too.
What's that?
Take out some of Iran. I'm okay with that.
What's that?
Take out some Iran. Weren't we fighting with them anyways?
What are you saying?
We're fighting with everybody, I think.
No, it's a war we don't have to fight.
We were last. I said last place we were was I guess then Iran and the United States have always have a contentious relationship.
And then what is that? That health organization in the world or whatever is not giving any help to Taiwan at all.
No,
Did you read about that? I read about that. Yeah, like Taiwan's not getting any help, any funding from that big. I can't remember what the corporation's called.
From the WHO, maybe.
Yeah, no, that's what it is. The guy they were showing interviews with the guy, and he was like avoiding the question and stuff.
Wow.
Like, I don't know. It's pretty savage, really. It's very Chinese of them to do that, I guess. Going on, that's taking China's side. I'm mad at China right now for eating bats. The hell you guys doing?
Well, that's actually a misnomer too. They didn't catch it from eating bats. They caught it from serving meat like lemurs and other animals.
Lemurs. What is a lemur?
From the bats.
Yeah, geez whiz. Like, what's a lemur? What is a lemur? I mean, like they're eating weird stuff.
It's like the animal I think you had in your lap. It's like a cat-like,
Oh my God.
Cat and raccoon type of thing.
This is what they like eating out there.
Makes
He's a
Prince a house
boomafoo,
cat.
baby.
Bigger,
He's a boomafoo.
bigger and awesomer. That's from our show. There was a place in Alberta up here in Canada, like Koreans do eat dogs. It's a delicacy. So if you knew how to ask, they'd serve you dogs, but they weren't serving you dogs. They were just going out and shooting coyotes and selling those. They were screwing everybody. It was great.
Oh, man.
So they were eating coyotes?
So I gotta ask though, like LA, it's a pretty social city. You guys got something going on like every night, so that must be a really tough adjustment for everybody to make.
Yeah. I mean, when you have
LA proper, are you like where all the clubs?
I'm in. I guess you could call it a little bit of LA proper. I'm in the farthest northwest part of LA City. So it's but I'm only 25 minutes away from downtown or Hollywood, so it's not that far. Yeah, but it is. It's different because every night there's usually something going on, right? And there's nothing. So for those guys who are getting out doing mics every night, that's kind of rough.
We had like almost like a foot of snow today.
Wow.
Yeah. It
wow.
totally justified.
It's like hello May, right?
Gotta stay in. Yeah, bummer.
Yeah, it had a huge snowfall. Good old Saskatoon.
Super random.
So one of you talking earlier said you heard some health professional talk and you learned a lot from her. Can you tell us what you learned?
Is that addressed to me?
Yeah, it was earlier.
Yeah. So anyway, Lily Singh, who is Canadian, she had that very popular show she was very popular on YouTube and got a show here in the United States on NBC, replacing Carson Daly. So it's called A Little Late with Lily Singh. So she was.
You like her?
What's that?
Nothing. I don't like that girl. I don't think she's funny.
Yeah, I don't know much about her. I just saw this interview. So she was interviewing Dr. Fauci, and he is the lead infectious disease guy in the United States. So, he's been a part of every administration since Reagan. So 40 years of him being at the White House. And she was asking him a lot of questions, really direct, good questions. And it was like the information that I got from that 20-minute interview, I think was better than any of those press conferences that came out of the White House for the last 2 weeks. So I thought that was interesting. But that's when he said exactly the same thing about the masks that, that when they were saying don't wear them because they don't do any good. But then they were saying in the same breath, the doctors wear masks because people sneeze and cough and water droplets in the air, so they don't want to get sick. So why wouldn't we wear masks in case somebody sneezes and coughs? It just didn't make any sense. Their logic wasn't playing out. And as it came out, Dr. Fauci actually said the reason we said that is we didn't want people going out buying up all the masks. And I thought that was, so we decided to lie to the people so that you guys wouldn't buy masks to protect yourselves, because we had to protect the medical professionals who don't have masks anyway, because the United States is embarrassingly unprepared.
Let's ask them comedy questions now.
Yeah.
We have Jerry Corley here, guys. Let's ask them comedy questions.
Yeah.
Am I on mute right now?
I agree, Fabian.
Yeah. So what do you find funny? Who's your favorite comedians? What are your biggest influences?
My favorite comedian is George Carlin. I was kind of mentored by George Carlin a little bit. So I'd say George is one of my favorites. Who do I like now? I like Bill Burr now. I mean, he's not my absolute favorite, but I do enjoy watching him work. Who else do I like? It's hard to say. I like some of the new people that are coming up now. I like Neil Brennan, who was a writing co-writer with Dave Chappelle. Love Chappelle. It was fun to see Chappelle come back and do his specials after being like 10, 11 years on hiatus. So that was awesome. But I enjoy watching all kinds of different comics work, different styles, different techniques, different points of view, different angles.
Okay.
So it's hard to really narrow down to like one comic,
So did you used to tour with George?
I never toured with George, but we used to hang out in a green room, his dressing room, like after a couple of several of his shows. We'd sit around for a few hours and I'd drink a beer and he would drink wine and take a pain pill.
Oh yeah. Did you ever do coke with anyone?
No, I wasn't a big coke guy.
No. Did you did you know?
Like the comedy store, there was a lot of blow going around the comedy store when I first started, but I was like, that wasn't my thing. I was like, I didn't need coke to stay.
Can I ask a question, Jerry?
Yeah.
With this with the coronavirus thing, and this is more a general question, but if comics are wanting to do material about the coronavirus, because as you alluded to earlier, there's so much fact versus fiction, how do you know what you're saying is going to be accurate? Or is it one of those things where you need to get on stage and sell your point of view, whether it's misinformation or not?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because
it'd be an opinion piece.
It's what?
You just go up there. You just go up there.
Just commit to it. Yeah, it's commit to it. I hear Bill Burr get up there and he'll do this. Yeah. He'll take an angle on something, and you go, "That is so not the fact, dude." But he doesn't care. He's just He's playing it strongly to his opinion. Exactly. And so it's like that's kind of how you do it. You stick to your guns and go with it.
Can I go back to the Comedy Store? Like
I'm back to the Comedy Store at least a couple of different nights a month.
Who all did you were your pals like that you buddied up with when you were growing up, when you were coming up through comedy? Like, who were your biggest pals?
I would say, let's see, who was I hanging out with a lot? I was hanging out with Carlin, then this guy named Jeff Jenna, who was big for a while. Now he manages like the Improv in Cleveland. And let's see, who else was my guy? Little Paul Reiser. I knew Paul.
Oh yeah.
Was
he a little cokehead? Was Paul a cokehead?
A lot of them were. I think Paul was a more closet cokehead.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So there was
did they just do it openly in front of everyone?
Sam Kinison used to do that all the time.
He was nuts. Was he a nice guy? I bet.
Sam was unpredictable.
Yeah.
He was totally unpredictable. We were at the, but not as unpredictable as Rodney Dangerfield. I remember doing a USA tour with Dangerfield, and we were at the airport, and we're getting ready to board United international flight, and he pulls out a hash pipe right there at the gate. And he's smoking hash. We're like, dude, you can't do this. He goes, I'm a draw. They're not going to arrest me. I'm a draw. He was that bold, man. Yeah.
And you have a Robin Williams story too, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, Robin, I met Robin originally at the Comedy Store. And I closed one time doing this Michael Jackson, just right off the cuff, singing Man in the Mirror. And it went well, and I'm standing in the back of the room, and all of a sudden this guy kind of shoulders up next to me, and he says, oh, that was a really cool Michael, man. And I said, thanks. And I looked to my left, and it's Robin Williams, and I was like, oh, shit. So years later, when I was going through this period of time where I was on the road so much, my wife was like she was like, you're gone too much. You need to be home more if this marriage is going to work. So I cut back a lot of the road work, and then some friends of mine owned a limo company, and they said, hey, work for us when you're in town, and then you could go out of town, do your gigs, and then when you come back, you still have a job. And I go, perfect scenario. And then I drove Robin Williams, and we got to know each other a little bit during the 3 weeks I was driving him. And then I wound up going on tour with him. What was interesting was driving Robin, and we're talking, we're chatting, and he goes, you're really funny. What do you do? I said, I'm a comedian. He said, did we ever work together? I said, yeah, we worked at the American Music Hall in San Francisco one time doing that fundraiser for the Red Cross. And he said, and then he said to me, then why the fuck are you driving a limo? And I went, trying to save my marriage. And he didn't talk to me for like 30 minutes. And then all of a sudden he blurts out of nowhere, he goes, fuck your marriage, man, save your life.
Nice.
And I went, holy shit. Wow, that's powerful. So
you sat there stewing for 30 minutes.
30 minutes, and he just didn't say a word. So I'm just sitting there going, all right, what's going on? What did I do?
Was he
Did I
right?
say anything wrong? Yeah, he was totally right, because it wasn't the fact that I was gone so much. It was like, she just needed something else in her life. She needed our accountant. Yeah, she's married now to our accountant,
Are you serious?
He's not my accountant anymore. I've sought other
Yeah, it'd be funny if you still used him. Listen here, man. Jeez, Wiz,
Hey,
really, eh?
The fact that you ended up with your accountant, like, without going into detail, that you get like totally screwed divorce-wise?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
No, that's all right. I mean, it was like part of me was like, I just want the fuck out. I don't want any of this. Take it. I don't care. I was more emotional. Now I look back and I go, well, you're an idiot.
Yeah, well, you can say that about any situation with a significant other, honestly.
Any relationship you're not in anymore, it's a good thing you're not in it. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
sorry about that, man.
No, it's all right. That happened. That was a long time ago. Since then, I've been with my wife for about 15 years.
Nice.
So that's cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
I actually have a question for Jerry, if you don't mind, and then I have to bounce, actually.
Why? Because you're fat?
Yeah. No.
You have to bounce off a car that's on the highway?
No, I have to be offensive.
Preston, I love you, buddy.
Oh, yes, you too, Fabian. I have to be offensive to homeless people and go home. Anyway, Jerry, you mentioned time spent with Robin Williams and George Carlin, for God's sakes. But what era was this? What time, like what year approximately was this? 1983?
93, 94?
He died.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, before he died. Somebody overmodulated on the mic.
I just remember I actually came across a really old video circa 1983 on YouTube at the Comedy Store with both Richard Pryor and Robin Williams. I can't believe someone has footage from that long ago, but it's incredible watching those two together on the same stage. But I guess a second related question is, how long have you been working with the Comedy Store?
I became a regular at the Comedy Store right about, I think, 92. And but then Mitzi and I had a falling out, but I still wound up performing there a lot. So, and now it doesn't matter because she's dead. So but that's where I met a lot of those guys. I met Letterman there.
That's one of my idols. Was there a process to get onto this regular like a circuit of people? Because there's a lot of big names that want to do that, right? So was there quite a how did you get onto the list of regulars?
Back then there was like a regular night. I think it was Sunday or Monday night that you could audition. You put your name on a list, and then you waited to be called, and you did 3 minutes. And Mitzi Shore, who was the owner of the Comedy Store, would sit in the back and watch the act. She would watch everybody who was on the list, and she would comment. She would call you over if she liked you, or if she thought you had something, she would comment and tell you to advise you to do something. So I became a regular at the Comedy Store the same year, same night Carlos Mencia became a regular.
Was there an audience for these tryout nights when you got your?
Oh yeah, it's packed.
Every night, every night.
It's packed. It used to not be. It wasn't. Just recently, they've done a great social media campaign over the last 2 years, and now almost every night, every showroom, because they have 3 showrooms. You have the belly room, the original room, and the main room. Every showroom is sold out. So,
is there one show you remember specifically that just blew you away?
I would say one of the shows that's really memorable recently, the one show where Steve Martin was in the main room, and Richard Pryor and Bill Murray showed up. There was just a whole bunch, really just an incredible lineup. But recently I did a blog post, and I deconstructed like 11 minutes of Bill Burr, and like 2 weeks, and somebody tweeted it out, and then said, "Hey, great deconstruction of Bill Burr at Joke Doctor at Bill Burr." And so he wrote back on Twitter. He said, "Hashtag horrific," and I tweeted him, "Hashtag not unexpected." So 2 weeks later, I'm in the green room at the Comedy Store, and Bill Burr's in there. And the MC comes up to me and said, Jerry Corley, you're on next. And he goes, Jerry Corley, did you write a blog? And I said, yes, I did. He goes, did you write a blog on deconstructing 11 minutes of my act? I said, I did, man. And he says, why would you do such a thing? I said, to show new comics that Bill Burr's not magic, that he has technique as well. And he goes, yeah, but you're giving away all the secrets. And I was like, are you really worried about that, bro? I said, did you ever watch Penn and Teller? I said, they do an act, and then they do a trick with cups and balls, and people can't tell where the balls go. And then they take that same trick and they do it with transparent cups.
Here's the thing with Bill Burr, though.
You were a guest on a podcast where you said that Jerry Seinfeld told the biggest lie in comedy.
Yeah, but I said I'm going to write an article called "The Biggest Lie Jerry Seinfeld Wants Everybody to Believe."
And what is that?
It's that comedy can't be taught or can't be learned.
But it should, a big part of it should be spontaneous, though. You should be able to feel it. I think, the best comedians are the ones who just go up and they can just feel it, I imagine.
Many elements of it are formulaic.
The timing and and your feeling of it comes through exposure and experience. You take anybody who seems to be naturally funny and you ask them what their history was, and they'll tell you, like Jerry Seinfeld he had his dad, he convinced his parents when they were getting a new TV to give them their old TV. And he said, I put that in my room and I would watch every comedy show I could watch, all day, all night. So through exposure.
But that would be a similar way of learning, right? That's kind of, I watched a bunch of comedy and I kind of just, and then but advice is, the thing is, a lot of people take advice wrong, right? So if you give them, if you say something wrong, a lot of people don't take constructive criticism very, very well.
Well, some people can give you.
But you kind of sewered them on that, though. You kind of just did it without them knowing, eh?
Well, it's like, yeah, it's, you can
so
do
in a way, it
like
was
that.
A little bit mean.
Why does that mean?
Well, you went up and just.
He's got his fucking act on YouTube. There's no basic expectation of privacy.
Tell us how it went. How did the rest of that conversation go?
And plus, it was like I was just basically the Seinfeld thing or the
Bill Burr.
The Bill Burr thing. Well, the Bill Burr thing was actually he goes basically I was like, are you really worried about that? I said, Penn and Teller do this thing with transparent cups, and the audience is no less fascinated. So it's like,
fair enough.
I said, nobody's going to do, oh, well, we understand what he does to get there. And then finally he said, which I admire Bill Burr, because he goes, I think the thing that bothered me about it is like, it all made sense, but I didn't know what the fuck you were talking about. You had all these labels and names and stuff, but I didn't know what that was. So
you basically figured out the art of comedy.
There's a science behind it, and there's
the science,
Yeah, there's actually science, and there's structure and technique. George Carlin said to me, I know with 98% accuracy that a joke is going to be funny before I step on stage. And I said, how do you know that? He said, because the joke contains all the elements necessary for a joke to be funny. And I said, what are those elements? And he said, you're going to have to learn those on your own, kid. And then so I did. I tried to really drill down and find out, okay, what triggers human laughter? And so that's how I got to the science of it. And then, so you can know with high odds when you take the stage that something's going to get a laugh. Now, the audience is always the final judge. We might think we get up there, we go, oh yeah, this joke's going to work.
That's right.
All of a sudden it flatlines. Yeah. But you can know with high odds. Like for example, that.
Do you think do you think that offensive humor is lowbrow humor?
It depends on what you call offensive.
Like jokes that. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Good.
It's like what people get offended by.
I'm offended by really clean material sometimes.
What's that?
That offends me. Sometimes clean shit offends me. You know what I mean? Like I'm offended because I get offended when it's not funny.
Yeah. So not funny to you.
Right.
So you guys know the phenomenon where you do the exact same set to a different crowd, kills one night, dies one night. So
yeah. There was one time I did a joke. I actually tried it in front of my son first. I was going to the Comedy Store. We're at dinner, and I said, "This is during the primaries." I said that the GOP is consulting with Caitlyn Jenner on how to best deal with Donald Trump. since he's the newest expert on how to quickly eliminate a dick. And he said, that joke's not funny, Dad. That won't work. I said, of course it'll work. He goes, no, Caitlin identifies as a she, not a he. And I go, he's a millennial. I go, you don't know what you're talking about. I went to the Comedy Store that night, delivered the joke, and it got a laugh, and it got an applause break. It was the first joke I did. And so I was like, ha, my son's wrong. Then very next night, same club, 20-somethings in the audience. I did that joke, complete flatline. And I was like, wow, that joke got a big laugh last night. What happened there? And this girl right in the front row said, Caitlin identifies as a she, not a he. And I went,
gotta read the room, Jerry. Gotta read the room.
Gotta read the room.
Exactly. So I was like, so then I also realized that I was confusing the audience with a pronoun, right? So if Caitlin identifies as a she and I was saying he because I know him as Bruce Jenner, then I was like, wait a second. And we have Trump and Caitlin in the same story in the setup. I've got to make sure my pronoun separates the two so the audience knows who I'm talking about. So when I changed the joke to the GOP was worried about how to deal with, so the GOP consulted with Caitlyn Jenner on how to best deal with Donald Trump since she's the newest expert on how to quickly eliminate a dick. When I said she, that joke works, I'd say 98% of the time now.
Interesting.
And, but it was that one, there was a pronoun flub that was making that joke not work. So I found that interesting.
Better than an anti-verb.
What's that?
Pronoun, anti-verb. I got to take off, you guys.
Anti-verb, good.
Yeah, I have to take off. I have something I got to take care of. It was nice speaking to you, Jerry.
Nice to meet you, man.
Let's do a video chat soon, me and you. I miss you.
I miss you. I miss everyone. I miss doing comedy. I miss everything.
See you, Fabian.
Trevor, thanks
See you,
for
Fabian.
having me, Trevor.
Nice to meet you, man.
Bye.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Take care.
Nice to see a fellow bald guy.
Zach did a pretty good job with his magic tricks there. What'd you think of
Yeah,
that, Jerry?
terrific, man. I love
Trevor,
that. That was especially considering like
I figured out.
the confines, right?
Appreciate it.
Yeah, really enjoyed that, man.
Thanks
I love
a lot.
magic. It was fun. It was fun to watch you do that and have the banter in there and just moves so smoothly. Really enjoyed that a lot.
I appreciate it. It was like I said, first time doing it like this. As I think probably it was really awkward trying to make sure everything was in the screen and everything.
But you handled that challenge so well.
I do it in front of audiences of hundreds all the time, and it's like totally different things sitting down in my little sound booth here trying to do
right.
it. So.
And it reminds me of like radio DJs, right? So they get up there and they're doing their thing and they don't hear the laughter.
Right. Yeah.
It's like so it's so now you're doing magic, and I think, and boy, I just want to give a hand to everybody else who was on this because they were participating, they're laughing, they're supporting. It doesn't work if they're not laughing, right? So everybody did a good job at sort of filling that energy up there, and this is what's going to make these kind of virtual mics work, I think. So I think it's great that you guys are doing this.
That was fun.
Yeah, thanks for doing it.
Yeah, you seem to do. You seem to kick ass as a headliner. So.
Well, it was a lot of fun. I appreciate you asking me to do it, Trevor. I know, you were trying to get me on last week and just so many things going on here with the family and everything. So glad I was finally able to make it on.
So how is your family doing? Everybody okay?
Everybody seems to be good. You know, my son's in Hoboken, so that's the one I'm concerned about. He's right across the river from New York City. So
does Jerry have time for another question?
Oh, yeah, sure. Go ahead, Lachlan.
Oh, thanks. Thanks very much for doing this. I was wondering if I could get your thoughts on sort of jokes per minute. How do you make a big deal about that? Is that something you think is important? Or?
Well, for me, I think, I'm a little old school. I get it. And, I also, there's value in story. I do think there should be some laughs. It's like, who was the guy, Hassan Minhaj? I saw him do the Correspondents' Dinner and here in LA, which is, or in Washington, D.C., but I watched it from in LA. That's where they have all the sort of the journalists get together in D.C. and they have this sort of a night. And he was the comedian. And he killed it. It was awesome. It was just joke, boom, 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 boom. Then my son said to me, Dad, you got to watch Hassan Minhaj's special on Netflix.
Yes,
and I go, bro, I can't wait. I'm going to watch it. It was like 25 minutes, no laugh.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, dude, this you got to understand the genre you're doing. It's like a film. If you can't capture them in the first 3 minutes or the first 10 minutes, we're going to check out. And if it's comedy, now he said it's excellent. Maybe I'll slog through it if I can again, but it's like 25 minutes in and I'm not laughing. I'm like, okay, where does this get funny? But at the same time, I have to realize as a viewer that people are saying it's awesome. So I'm missing something. Maybe I keep watching it.
It's a one-person play more than a comedy thing, Jerry.
What's that?
It's a one-person play more than a comedy. It's a one-man show, more autobiographical than a comedy stand-up routine, in my humble opinion.
No, that's a good observation, Dawn. So maybe they should. Yeah, I think maybe it's Netflix's fault for marketing it.
It's
poorly.
marketed inappropriately, but it's a fantastic. If you look at it from a one-man show perspective, it's really amazing because he talks about racism and he talks about what it was like growing up during 9/11 and having bricks go through his window and all those kind of things. So it's something a lot deeper than just one-liners.
So that might be the angle. Is if I knew that going in rather than Hassan Minaj's stand-up special.
Yeah.
You know, I would have had a different
setup.
setup.
Hannah Gatsby, I've been recommending you watch her for a while now.
Who's that?
She's Hannah Gatsby and Nanette, but she's very funny. She's very dry and she's from South Africa.
Right.
But
I've seen her.
The last 20 minutes is really rough and raw and really vulnerable because she tells you what happened and how she spun it to make it a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll have to, I think I saw that one. I'll have to go back and refresh my memory, but I don't have any. So I think laughs per minute, it's really, if you're doing clubs and you're new, that's important criteria, right? So you're going to be judged on that as far as like, is this guy going to work in this club again? Do I give him a regular spot? And normally, and certainly, so the going range for laughs per minute is about 18, a laugh every 18 to 20 seconds. Some people have more, some people have less.
America's Got Talent is 10, Jerry.
10 in the first minute, right? Or 10 in the 90 seconds.
10, they want a joke every 10 seconds.
Every 10 seconds at America's Got Talent. Yeah, that's in their email. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so America's Got Talent isn't a club, but their criteria is really high at America's Got Talent. So that's you really gotta be on point.
Wow, crazy.
I remember my first stand-up on television. I had 11 laughs in my first minute, and now AGT wants 10. I'm like, shit, I barely beat that. That wasn't that.
Yeah,
great.
And that was back when you had hair.
That was way back when I had hair, right?
A&E's Evening at the Improv, right?
That was my first television spot was doing that. And, but it's like, so it's bottom line is this, are you interesting? Are you memorable? Are you funny? And everybody, especially now compared to back then, remember now we have so many different platforms. Back then we had 3 major networks. That was it. So there was, if you made it to the Tonight Show and you got on a Tonight Show and Johnny called you over to the desk, you were made. That was it, because he was the only thing on at that time. He made careers on the Tonight Show. Now I talk to comics who are like, I've been on the Tonight Show 12 times and I still haven't hit that level because there's just so much content out there and there's so much to watch. So it's a different game today. What I love is the comics who are building that pressure on the social platforms, and now the networks are coming to them and offering them development deals. So it's like when Patton Oswalt was at JFL 5 years ago, he said, we have more power in these phones than Orson Welles had on his first film shoot. He said the creators, it's now a creator's game. We can do a lot of stuff. And so when comedians are out there and they're doing shows on YouTube, they're doing shows on TikTok, they're just on Twitch.tv, they're garnering all these followers. You get 1 million subscribers, 5 million subscribers, you get 1 million views on something you put up on YouTube. I mean, Conan O'Brien gets on average about 300,000 eyeballs a night on his show. So that's attractive to networks when you start to get those kinds of subscribers on like YouTube. and then you building pressure. So then they want maybe to open up a deal with you. So that's, I think one of the comics' best advantages is to utilize that and build that and get some content out there.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Good point.
Another question, since there's a bit of a gap there. I've been watching comedians do their 5-minute sets on late night talk shows whenever I can, and a lot of them I find like I don't remember. I don't find them very funny. I try to watch them with my wife or my son, and they're like, "This is not funny at all." I don't have any specific names in mind, but I'm wondering if you watch those sorts of people in those circumstances.
Andrew Norelli.
Do you think, oh, these guys are funny, or these ladies are funny, or do you think,
well, some are and some aren't, and I see, here's what's interesting, right? There's this guy named Rob Delaney. Now, some of you may know Rob Delaney. He was like a Twitter comedian, and he had like 750K followers. Now he's got over 1 million. And so Rob Delaney got a shot, right? So first of all, he got invited to do the improv. He tweeted it out and sold out the improv. So then I think Netflix was offering him some kind of a deal. They opened up a development deal with him, and then he did Jimmy Kimmel Live, and he did. It was the worst late night set I've ever seen a comic do in my life. In fact, the next day he had his lawyers call ABC television and have them take that performance down from the internet. I recorded it, and I screen recorded it, so I have it to kind of, now not to disparage him because he made it there, right? Mm-hmm. But he was unprepared. It was scattered. He didn't really have any, certainly not prepared for a late night set, which should be very specifically planned out because you only have 4.5 minutes. But he ate it. He ate it with a big fat shovel. But he had a deal with Netflix, and if you watch this show, it's called Catastrophe. It's now renewing, I think, for its 4th or 5th season. So despite the fact that he had a horrible performance on Jimmy Kimmel, he's still going, but he built his fame on Twitter. So I thought that was
Can I chime in on that one? Hi, everybody. It's Joe Dungan.
Dungan. Hey, Joe. How are you?
Hey, Joe. How's it going?
Nice to meet you.
Doing fine. Thank you. I just realized I haven't left the house all day today, so if I seem a little bit blah, blah, blah. And also, by the way, this shit is addictive. I don't know if you have it in Canada, but my God.
With the Mexican sugar?
I treated myself to a rum and Coke last night. I haven't had a rum and Coke in ages. And then today I'm kind of moping around my kitchen going, oh, look, we have a few bottles of Coke. I think I'll have one of these. I haven't had soda in years. I've had 2 in back-to-back days. So, yeah. Anyway, as to your comment about late night comedians, there's something to keep in mind here. The bookers for those late night shows are a single individual, and their choice in comedians often boils down to personal taste.
Yes.
Here's something interesting. Jerry, did you know this? You know David Spade has a show now.
Yeah.
Lights Out with David Spade. Mm-hmm. Do you know who the booker is on that show?
Who?
The same person who books the Comedy Store.
Who's booking the Comedy Store now?
Adam Egget. Did you know that?
Oh, right. No, I didn't know that.
Adam Egget is the booker for David Spade. So you're seeing a funnel of comedians from the store going right on to David Spade's show. Now, every comedian has a first late night set sometime if you get to that station in life. Right. But I'm not going to name names, but there are a couple of comedians on there. I'm kind of like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? You're putting this person on television? So to anyone out there who's scratching their heads about these late night comedians, you're not wrong to have your doubts. It's not like there's some giant licensing bureau that carefully scans the quality of each comedian to make sure they're good enough for late night comedy.
It's one guy, usually one guy.
It's usually one person.
Yeah,
and another show, I'm not going to name names of comedians, but Colbert.
Yeah.
I've seen a couple comedians on Colbert going, really? Really?
Yeah.
You know, they're not terrible.
If I could piggyback on that. Oh, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
No, I mean, they're not terrible, but if that person's on, I can name 100 people you can put on. I personally know 100 people you could put
there's
on
people-
if that's
and
where
that's
the bar.
it's like in Conan's, you got J.P. Buck, and J.P. Buck's been doing this for a while, and J.P. has a very specific type. He's not a he's got his own thing, and he'll be that person that's like, oh, that's not funny, despite the fact the crowd is laughing, but for him it's not funny, and so he doesn't know how to separate his ideals for away from what's good for the show.
And I've also heard Ari Shaffir complain. Ari Shaffir has this thing on YouTube. It's 3.5 hours of him talking about stand-up, if you've never seen it. He was complaining on that thing, and that video is like 9 or 10 years old. He said for a long time, the comedians who got specials on Comedy Central, before Netflix started giving them away like candy, but back when Comedy Central specials, meant something when they were a thing, the person who booked those was booking guys that she wanted to have sex with. Not that she did have sex with, but that she wanted to have sex with.
Explains
They're
why I
like
didn't
cute
get that.
guys from 25 to 35, little like slight frame guys. That's what she found attractive, and those are the ones who got the specials. Dawn, you were about to say.
So that's what I've been doing wrong all these years. I'm not sleeping around.
Well, goals, Dawn. Goals. Them goals.
New goals.
That was the joke, but I've also was gonna piggyback on the fact that I've had talent tell me to their face that they want me on their show, but then their booker will tell me that it's too much of a PSA or too much disability humor, but the talent themselves would say to my face that's exactly what they like, because I've met them in other, entertainment settings and approached them, as you know, Jerry and Joe.
Yeah, I totally know.
How's it going,
Well,
Keith?
that's how you find out who's got the power of the show. If you get on the show, you were talking to the right person. If you didn't get on the show, you weren't talking to the right person.
Right.
Keith, where are you?
Hey, am I here?
How's it going?
Hey, Keith,
Hey.
how's it going?
Hey, I'm with my people.
How's the show going, Keith?
Really good. I enjoyed it. I don't know if anybody saw the chat. I was
No, I'm
listening
talking about you writing for your show. How's that going?
Oh, really, really good. I had some gig work come in, and I'm working editing video at the moment, so I took a break to kind of chime in.
Okay, cool.
So I just a few things to toss out. Hi, everybody. I really enjoyed the visit last time, Trevor. Like this last one of these you held. And I really enjoyed meeting your new friends. It was really very cool. And Jerry was right at the beginning that this is a really good turnout. I just watched one of these last night with two very, very popular, well-known comedians, and I won't say their names, but they were very, very well-known, and they only had like 25 people.
So yeah, you had like 17 going on here, Trevor Dean. That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I just want, the other thing is I want, for everybody who doesn't know me, I would actually took Jerry's class, took a few of his classes, and came out. So there's a community out here in Los Angeles. That's where I'm at. Who we call ourselves the Corley's kids, but it's this camaraderie that is circled, around, generated from Jerry's classes, his alumni, and so in that we try to really encourage female comics because they bring there's seems to be a few of them. They have a bigger struggle kind of making it, and so we really encourage them because in the feedback they offer us guys, they give a new perspective and they offer some of the best punchlines to our gags that we could offer. I was so glad to see so many female comics involved. When we began, I'm kind of sad to see that they left and they weren't participating in the conversation. And so, Don, I would just want to give you some points here for joining in the conversation.
Oh, you're very sweet.
Yeah, appreciate that, Don.
Now, I didn't realize that, I think I mentioned this before, but Jerry, when I was down to see you in LA, I didn't realize that Keith actually watched my set at Flappers on my birthday.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he was there, let alone remembered it.
Well, I didn't know you yet, so there you go.
But he remembered it. Keith's got amazing memory.
It was. Well, I should ask. The only thing I remember is I was doing my last joke, and the woman gave me the signal, and I thought, okay, she's giving me the light, but I've already started my closer, so I should be fine. And I couldn't get through my closer because she jumped up on stage, like she's a short chick. She jumped up on stage and she was waving her arms like stop, stop, stop on my birthday. And I was like, oh, okay.
It's showbiz, baby. It's showbiz.
That's right. It's like you get the light, get done, right?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, you guys. I sound like a kiss ass, but I would kiss Jerry's ass around this world. So, but the truth is, and one of the things he talks about in training is that we are our own worst critics. We get up there, we pour it out there, we give of ourselves, we make ourselves vulnerable.
Oh no, I was horrible watching Jerry. It was like performing for my dad if he gave a shit.
No, there you go. We are our worst critics, so we beat ourselves up.
Because Jerry just had this look of that I've never seen before, of like pride, and just he was proud of me being up there, and I was eating shit.
That's your perspective.
But
Trevor.
you ate shit like a professional.
Oh, thanks. That's fantastic.
My point
was very rowdy, very like talkative. And look, in Mike says, here's what the deal is in Mike. Everything is about relationships. Everything in this business is about relationships. So when you go to a mic, when you're first at that mic, you're going to have a lot of, and comedians are so insecure that they're not willing to give over laughter to you, because that, for some of them, they feel like, oh, if I laugh at him, it means I'm less funny. Somehow that's somewhere in their head. So, but the more you go back to that mic and you stay consistent, all of a sudden now you start to form those relationships. Now they're more willing to laugh with you. But going into a new mic, being brand new, doing your stuff, and they start talking to their friends or whatever, it's real tough to do. So you stayed tried and true. You did your material. You didn't waver. And I knew you were running late. So when they lit you, I don't think you saw that first light. And I was like, oh, I don't think you saw the first light. So when you got to that last joke, you saw that second light. You figured you thought that was the first light. And then you start.
I didn't know I got lit twice.
Yeah. So that was the second light. That means get done. And so that's why she stepped on stage. But it was like funny to, we laughed about it afterwards. We went out and grabbed a bite to eat, and we're laughing at the.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, that's great.
Restaurant.
Yeah.
Trevor, the point I would like to make for you, and well, for everybody, because it's not just pat Trevor on the head moment, but the thing is, I'm a busy person, trust me, and I'm not easily entertained, and I'm not one to go around patronizing people, but I saw enough promise in you that night that I sought you out and connected with you.
Yeah.
And I think it's something for all of us to remember. When we get up and we think we have bombed and we're beating ourselves up, we have no idea what the reality was. We're just beating ourselves up.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry and Keith and Joe are so insightful, because Jerry, I think the best piece of professional advice you ever gave, or the piece that I remember the most, is you always say that the audience is in the same state of the performer. And I don't know if I'm being as eloquent as you are when you state that, but that's one of the pieces that I remember the most.
Yes.
And then when Keith talked the other day, I think you posted on the Corley Kids page that with all these Zoom programs that we're having now because of the virus, if you log in and you don't get acknowledged, the person is easily clicked off. And I logged into a meeting that I was invited to and sat there for 45 minutes and logged off because they didn't even acknowledge my presence. And then all of a sudden it was like, well, where'd you go? And I'm like, but if you acknowledge everybody else as they enter the Zoom room, you should acknowledge me.
That's
and
a really
I don't
good
think
point.
I have a big ego or anything like that. But if I'm sitting there for 45 minutes and I'm tuning in, it would be nice if somebody at least said hello. So that was a big piece of advice that I remembered from Keith the other day.
I think that should go in the list of tips for these online formats, right, where we're doing these virtual mics, is like, be sure to acknowledge the new people that enter the room, because especially when you're coming in remotely, they can't see a look or a nod or anything like that. So you have to take an extra step to say, hey, look, so-and-so has just entered the room. Nice to see you, and then they feel good. And also on the other side of it, as a professional, one of the keys that we have to learn is we have, especially in this type of business, it's super vulnerable when you're performing, and it's whether you're doing magic or whether you're doing stand-up or whether you're an actor, you're up there on stage. It's a super vulnerable place to be, is we have to learn to develop an unwavering sense of self, so that when things like that do happen, they're probably happening not consciously. Nobody's in their mind going, oh yeah, Dawn just entered the room, we're not going to talk to her. So we tend to have this an insecurity going in that we have to kind of sort of just keep consistent and persistent and allow it to play out, because odds are people aren't doing it on purpose.
Well, the thing that bothered me with this particular Zoom was everybody else that entered the room had acknowledged me.
Hang on a second. I just want you guys to understand that Joe is trying to make a plug.
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
No, he's got a plug up on his window.
It's a good one.
My iPad is dying. I had to plug it in. I'm here. Hi.
There it is.
Hi. Is it,
Sorry,
Jerry, is
continue.
it just me, or does Joe Dungan look like he won the Richard Jenny Lookalike contest?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes he does look like Jenny.
No, let me ask you, Jerry, what was your
Dawn was,
opinion
I cut her off. I cut you off, Dawn. Finish up.
Oh, that's okay. I was just basically saying that everybody else that entered the room was acknowledged, and I was chatting away because I didn't think my technology was working, and other people were acknowledging me over the chat bar, but the host never did. So after a while, I just left the room, because even though they invited me, I didn't think they wanted me there.
Yeah, a lot of times, got to understand, a lot of guys, when they're doing this like technology, there's a lot that you're dealing with. Like when I do streaming classes and I have people streaming in, and I've got people also in the class, I'm trying to acknowledge the technology as well as deal with people in the room. Your head's going about 1,000,000 miles an hour. And so I think it was an oversight on his part, probably wasn't intentional. I did that recently, and I had a student say, hey, you never acknowledged me. And I said, oh man, I'm sorry. We were right in the middle of going over somebody's material. You showed up late. And certainly if we got into a break, I would have said, hey, look who's joined us. But he was blaming me, and it is on me because it's my class. I should have just paused for a second and say, hey, look who's here, then gone on with the material I was working on with somebody. But yeah, I mean, that happens. Everybody's getting used to this sort of technology. So Trevor, you were saying something on.
No, I was just going to ask, because I think Richard Jenny was probably one of my favorites, just because of his ability to tell stories and have multiple laugh points through those stories.
Yes, and that's what Jenny was. Jenny was definitely good at that, and that's that's the key, isn't it? Write the story first, and just write your story, tell the story, then go back and use some technique to plant some laugh points where you need them. And it's like, and you can use that just using structure and technique. That's one of the values of having the tools. That same thing with Bill Burr. When Bill Burr started, he as a comedian, the first 5 to 7 years of his career, he's a 1- and 2-liner comic, because self-admittedly he says, I had to know how to write a joke. So now that when he's up there doing his very emotionally committed points of view on subjects and sort of riffing on it till he finds the material, which is where he is now in his career, it's easier for him to find the jokes. Yeah, I mean, you have the jokes on the way to the story, and sometimes you need a joke. You go, here's a gap, there's no laughs. You can plug something in by using some techniques. Anyway, so it's like we're at 10:16. Shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, unless anybody's got another last question or whatnot.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Okay, so just very quickly, I was chuckling early on when somebody asked Jerry who his favorite comics were, because I put in the chat room that's like asking an encyclopedia, what's your favorite word? But so I have a question for Jerry. So Jerry, I think this would be helpful for all of us. Okay, so we're all at this time, and I probably for quite a while, going to be turning to internet to perform, because I can't imagine us seeing any marquee saying sold out for quite a while. And so my question is, when we're performing comedy, how do we adjust or time ourselves? Trying to imagine, when you get to a punchline and do we imagine a laugh? Do we pause? Do we keep going? How do we time that? What's your suggestion for that?
Well, I was trying to feel out this vibe here. So a lot of times, sometimes I'll make the choice to do the deadpan after I deliver the joke and just pause. There were some times where I'd just pause and then the laugh would follow. There'd be a little configuration and then I'd hear the laugh. And sometimes I'd just continue with my talk and the laugh would pick up. And they'd laugh through the setup to the next joke because that's what they were responding to. What I would love to do is I would love to listen to it later and see if I can get a gauge on which part of the timing worked out, the halting and delivering the material and just pausing for a second, or just sort of plowing through and not even worrying about whether or not it's funny. You're just trying to communicate an idea. And so sometimes that's a good way to do it. You have to leave, Joe?
No, I want to add to this.
Yeah.
A few things. Number one, I wouldn't be surprised if Zoom expands the technology to the point where you can hear everybody's responses in real time. I mean, even if it's a crowd of 100 or 1,000, I wouldn't be surprised if we go there. That's number one. Number two, when a comedian continues talking, it's because of a cue that the audience is giving them. And in film, it's the other way around, because that's all preset. So there's two things. If it's a cue that the audience is giving you, because I did a corporate this week online, and the person running it said, look, to all the comedians, just stay in the room and let's laugh at each other's jokes. And that was the gauge that we used. I honestly have no idea what the rest of the audience thought or how many there were. I don't know how they included it. It was kind of weird. So we went off the cues of the other comedians in there. That's number one. And the other thing you can do is, and Jerry, you've done enough comedy to notice this, and some of you also may have done this. Mm-hmm. You can train an audience how quickly to respond. Robin Williams was a master at this. He would go so fast, and he got them laughing and then quiet really fast because he was on to the next thing.
Is that too configurational comedy or
what, Trevor?
Sorry, Joe. Is that just too configurational comedy where you can train an audience to respond, or?
No, I mean I'm talking about the pace that you go. You can train an audience to stop laughing after a certain amount of time, and I think you can do it if you're in this situation like on a Zoom. I think you can suddenly start training an audience to stop laughing by your body language. You'll notice a lot of comedians tend to trigger a laugh. They telegraph the end of a joke with their body language. Mm-hmm. The little things like that. Like Bob Hope used to do that. He would look off this way and that way and then look right at the camera to tell a joke. You know who does it also? I don't know if it's a tell. Brian Kiley does it. He'll tell a joke. He'll talk about blah, 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 and then he'll kind of do one of these. Put his hand right here and lean in a little bit.
And then once in a while, he'll do that little shift on his feet. And he'll maybe look over to the left or something, which is effective. But, Brian delivers it very slow, and you can tell in his inflections that's where the punch is coming. And I tested out a couple of different jokes, and one where I used an intentional inflection to trigger the laugh. And it came where I anticipated it. There were other places where I was just sort of trying out the new jokes that I had just written. So, but I also wanted to let everybody know what I was doing. Because if you just get up there and you just start to sort of recite, it's not. I said, I wrote some of these COVID-19 jokes, and since it's an open mic, I thought I would give them a shot. And then that's what I did. Then I sort of segued in some other old stuff, and then came back and did some current events stuff. You know, what was interesting to me is I used to do a lot of radio stuff, right? So promoting the shows on the road for 30 years, 40 something weeks out of every year. So I did a lot of radio, and you're in the morning, you're just trying to pimp the show. So they say, so Jerry, how you doing? And they don't care how you're doing. They want you to go into material. They want to see a slice of the show they're going to see that night. So I would just sort of go into it. And what was interesting, sometimes I would go at a fast clip and sometimes I would slow down. When I went at a fast clip and just sort of went and let the DJ giggle wherever he could, that's when people showed up and said, man, I heard you on the radio. You were amazing. I couldn't stop laughing. So, but it's like, what's so fascinating is like, you don't get to hear that in real time necessarily on these platforms, because sometimes there's a slight delay in the audio. There were some people who were muted. So, and Trevor doesn't laugh. So, because I remember when he interviewed me, I was on his show for 2 hours and I would be like, that was a joke, Trevor.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Now,
I remember that.
now what
And
you
so-
said, this is really interesting, because now I'm thinking two things. What my point was initially is, if you can train an audience when to laugh because you're triggering something with body language or inflection, my argument is you can also train them when to stop laughing. So if you tell a joke and you're frozen, and then you do one of these,
yeah,
the audience is going to go, oh, he's going to start, and then they will calm down again. Now, to your point about
Johnny
radio,
Carson used to have those cues too, and he'd be, he'd do that, and he'd go, and they would respond, right?
Now, to your point about radio, I think what you were doing is more presentational than conversational. Audience and radio is listening in on this fun conversation that you're having with the DJ there, and that's a different style of humor. And I think this Zoom stuff that comedians are going to start doing is really going to open up a different conversation about styles of comedy. And I think people who hew to a certain style are probably going to flourish under this format, because they're not thinking about, the immediate feedback that you get from a live audience. And those are the ones who are going to thrive. It's the insecure ones who need an audience to laugh. And we don't need to name names because we know who some of them are. They're
Right.
going to be stumbling because they don't know how to handle this.
Yeah, and they're going to go, they'll be like the same people that blame the venue or blame the situation or blame.
Yeah, I'm
rather
going to blame
than,
the ISP.
let me see if I
for
can
my lack of
navigate
laughs.
this and figure this out, because I think you're right. I think so many new things that are going to be discovered during this this adventure that we're on, and it's and I think it's going to be. I think we're going to come up with some really cool things for comics. And it may wind up being, a total bust, or it may wind up being something amazing. But something's going to come out of it.
Well, I mean, talk about things that are a bust. I mean, look at the fucking morons on YouTube who have 8 million subscribers because they eat shaving cream or whatever the fuck, these idiotic fucking things that people do. It doesn't have to be, box office success and critical, appraisal. There's not a lot of overlap. You don't have to be the best comedian in the world, but if you can come up with something on Zoom, I was thinking the other day on Zoom, you can also change your background. I don't know how to do it, but there's a button you can push and you can have like a map of the world behind you. Well, if you
Right.
upload the right photo, you can put anything behind you.
Yeah.
And if you do it repeatedly during your set, that can be a punchline.
Mhm.
Now, I haven't written a joke for that, but I'm sure there's some joke where you can write it, have a punchline, push a button, and then another video shows up. Has
And I
anyone
think
seen
one
my
of the
girlfriend?
keys, like Trevor has a nice clean wall behind him. That would be a good opportunity to try that out. I think it's different with a Windows computer than it is with a Mac, and different with a phone, an iPhone. So because they do it without green screen now. Because when Zoom first came on, when they were sort of demoing me on the software, the lady had a green screen, but they came up this chroma key technology where they actually take any background and replace it. So, my son, we had a family Zoom chat with everybody across the country, and my son Chris, his background was I think that it was me at Wise Guys in Salt Lake City. We found this video of me online and just made that his back picture, just kind of as a gag. I thought that, but I was like, "Do you have a green screen?" He's like, "No." I said, that can't be done without a green screen, can it? He's like, well,
It
I don't
can
have a green
now.
screen, Dan.
It's a
I
little,
was like, that's awesome.
little fuzzy around the edges, but
Yeah.
I saw it the other night. People were doing it. I saw it today
Very
in
cool.
class. Somebody did it.
Yeah.
So and this is going to open up all kinds of possibilities. And just when everyone goes back to live entertainment, I think some people are going to stick to Zoom. I think some people are going to go, you know what, these Zoom shows ain't bad. I'm going to stick to this. And that's going to cut into the live entertainment budget. But it's going to open up all kinds of possibilities.
A quick aside. One of my students is a CMO of a company. That means sort of, he's the chief marketing officer. And he's like 23, 24 years old, doing very well, funny kid. And he said, just a little quick little tip. He said, get on TikTok. It's the place you get the most subscribers the fastest.
What's TikTok?
TikTok is the new app. It's a social media app where I think you can put videos up to 1 minute or 2 minutes on there. I've got to
It's like
investigate
Vine,
it.
but longer videos.
Yeah, so it's like Vine, but longer videos. And he's like, and so one of the another one of my students, she that I do Zoom chats with, she's had her TikTok now for a month, and she's got 60,000 subscribers or 60,000 followers. And that's a lot. So to start out, just 1 month. So and now I just read this on Variety, all these celebrities now are now going on to TikTok. So the opportunities now, I think. And then the CMO guy, Jordan, he said the thing I'm doing, I'm building up my TikTok, and then I'm going to basically cross-pollinate them over to my YouTube. So once they're following you, and you build this rapport with them, and you stay social with them, and you go, hey, check me out on YouTube to get the longer versions of this. That might. But
you also have to give them a reason to follow you.
Yeah, you got to give them a reason, right? Got to be entertaining, or you have to provide information. Got to be something, provide them something compelling. Just always show them that 7 of spades, Zach.
Yeah, TikTok.
That was the card, right? That was the card tonight.
What's that? Yeah, it was the card.
Yeah.
Zach, do you have another quick trick you can show us before we wrap it up?
I'm sorry. Can I interrupt real quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if I could rephrase my question.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question is specifically, okay, until Zoom gets there, or even if Zoom was there tomorrow, somebody, a comic like me, if I went on there, I'm not going to garner an audience. So my question is, somebody like me going on and performing online, whether it's videotaping on YouTube or trying to do something live, I'm going to be there alone with no audience response. So how would you deliver your material as far? I mean, like Joe was pointing out, a stand-up comedy is it's a conversation, but you're there alone delivering punchlines.
Now, did you follow Charlie Barron's yet? Manitowoc Minute on YouTube.
Yes.
So Charlie was a student, right? And he was in class, and basically he said, how do you make it? And that's one of the things I said. I said, develop a niche, find a niche character, and put it on YouTube. And then next thing I heard from Charlie after class was that he had 70,000 subscribers on YouTube, and he's doing the Manitowoc Minute. And then I went down to go see him at Flappers, and he sold out in a Saturday afternoon in the main room at 4:00 in the afternoon. And I was like, that's amazing. All with 77,000 subscribers. Now he has 140,000.
Yeah. Yes.
And he does basically minute clips on their minute and a half. Does this little show where he's basically this guy, sort of the Wisconsin guy with the camouflage, don't you know, doing the news and stuff. And very effective. The Wisconsinites love him. And so he's built up this really big fan base. Now, there's also and he just started by asking some of his friends to come over and watch. Now, I think in your case, what I'm thinking is what would be interesting. There are a lot of podcasts on that people that seem to start out slow, but they're all story-based, where they've developed a huge audience and people are riveted hearing the stories. You've got some gripping stories, and maybe it starts on a podcast and then translates later onto YouTube because you already have a following. I mean, your stories, Keith, are gripping, and they're dramatic, and they're real. And so when you hear a lot of these podcasts, you're hearing a lot of the same thing. It's basically the real story. Look at the Tiger King right now. It's the real story of this guy. And I just watched the half of the first episode, and I'm riveted just at the interesting collection of people that he attracts to his place. And I was like, what a interesting cat. And now I can't wait to continue watching. But his story is interesting, and that's why that thing has just leapt to the top of everywhere you look. Everybody's talking about the Tiger King. I think Keith Tyler has amazing story to tell. Maybe it starts on a podcast and then translates later, evolves to YouTube in just a conversation as you're telling somebody the story.
Or maybe it started on the stand-up sit-down.
Or maybe it started on the stand-up sit-down. Also, I think another way to do it is if you have, here's where the 1- and 2-liner joke comes in very handy, right? If you're running a little quick, like 10-second joke, and you're doing one every day, like you come on, you say your joke, you you smash to black, and that's it. And you continuously and consistently do that with funny, eventually people are going to laugh and then find you again and find you again and then find you again. And then you, that's another way to build an audience, I think, because it's also a little bit dramatic, right? You come on, you just say your joke, and then it just smashes to black, right? Right when they're about to laugh. And I'm watching some of the footage that's on like Instagram, or it shows up on Twitter. And I'm seeing what people are responding to, what's really getting those retweets, some interesting stuff out there. Some of it's just, anybody see this viral one where the guy was like, basically things are getting crazy. Things are getting crazy. And this guy's just holding his phone, just an iPhone, as you can tell, it's live. And it's like, so there's this girl come down my driveway there, and she's like, I'm telling you, things are getting crazy. And she comes up, and she's like, some crack, like she's on crack or something, some crack whore or something like that. She comes up, and she's like, and it's just, the picture's just showing the driveway, and the house across the street. And he's like, and she come up and she says, hey, I will give you a blowjob and a donut for a roll of toilet paper. That's what she said. She said, I'll give you a blowjob and a donut for a roll of toilet paper, man. And that's, she came like off the highway there. That's where I think she came from. It's like, you got to be careful, because I think she went, and then she left over, and she went on over to Jimmy's, and he holds his hand up there to point in front of the frame, and in his hand is a donut. And so it's all real, and he's playing under the comedy. And it was just straight ahead delivery, but he was so authentic in his delivery and telling the story, you were compelled. You wanted to hear the rest of the story. Okay, what happened? Shit's getting crazy. What happened? People are acting weird. What happened to this guy? And then he holds out that, I don't laugh hard a lot when I watch stuff. I go, oh, that was good. That cracked me up because it was so like perfectly timed. So that's the kind of interesting stuff that's working on as far as comedy's concerned. But I think some of the short clips and also some of these little stories that what I would call like shorts of sketches, and it was just a mini kind of sketch and telling a little story. So that's what that's my 2 cents. Where did Joe go? I was waiting for his 2 cents.
He disappeared. I'll just jump in real quickly. So thank you, Jerry. That's great advice. And largely why I asked that is because last week, several of Trevor's friends here I detected some very interesting stories, and they don't seem to share them openly. And I just again encouraging stand-up comics to get up and
they do on my radio show somewhat.
And Trevor too. So there you go.
So Zach, that's interesting. So maybe, like Trevor just said, they do on my radio show. So maybe they're so used to the open mics and they're so worried about laughs per minute that they're not, they don't feel comfortable yet telling the story because they're worried about the laughs. And it's like, there's other comics here, I have to prove myself sort of thing. rather than just kind of getting up here and going ahead, feeling free to tell the story and let the story be compelling. Again, like Hassan Minhaj, right? He tells his whole story, and even though I didn't laugh for 25 minutes, everybody's saying it was wonderful. So I'll go back and watch, and maybe it is more of a one-man thing. Now on this platform, I think you need to get there before 25 minutes, of course, but maybe it's not about laps per minute in this type of a platform. Maybe it's about, is the story interesting? Does this guy have an interesting character? Why am I riveted listening to what he has to say? So maybe there's something capital. Like Carlin said, don't just make him laugh, make him think.
Right.
You know, and he used to get so frustrated when he watched a comic up there. He'd go, I wish they just, I wish somebody would just say something that means something. And that was a big deal for him, is like, say something that has substance, you know? So maybe that's it too. If somebody's talking about something that has tremendous substance and you're like, I didn't know that. That's so cool. And then the joke shows up later. Maybe, this would be a fun journey to find out what's working best.
Yeah. In our remaining moments here, Zach, do you have one more trick you can show us before we all depart?
Sure. Yeah, when you said that, I thought, oh boy, I didn't even plan for anything. I didn't plan for an encore. So I ran to my wallet and I grabbed $1 because I thought, how am I making money now? I'm not performing, not doing gigs now. So I'll show you how I'm making money now. Like, grabbed a $1 bill, US $1 bill out of my, and let's do this. Empty. I would push back my sleeves, got short sleeves on, fold it in half again, show you both sides again, fold it in half again, and one more time. All I have to do is blow on it. When I open it back up, if this works, it doesn't always work, but if it does work, hopefully, should get a little bit better here.
Amazing.
I'll take a look at that. There we go.
Wow. This guy, he's like a Republican senator or something. For $1 into 20.
Exactly.
It's like,
that's awesome.
That was really great, man.
Now, to be a Republican senator, you'd have to spend $20 on something that costs $1.
Well, yeah, that's.
Money would go the other direction. Zach, where are you?
Or you just get the inside information and you short some stocks.
Yeah, right. I'm in Rockford, Illinois, outside of Chicago.
Okay, I'm gonna send you some dollar bills.
Hey, there you go. Yeah.
I just followed you on Facebook.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Appreciate
Rockford,
it.
Illinois. Yeah.
Illinois. Yeah.
I played
now,
Rockford before.
Just really quickly, Jerry.
Yes, sir.
You always talked about how you deal with awkward moments and navigate through them. Zach, just before we go, you were talking about how you were at the end of our interview, how you were doing birthday parties at kids shows and how you wanted the pets out of the room. Maybe you could retell that story and how you navigated through it.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I have an issue because when I do kids parties, I use a live dove in my show, and I make it appear at the end of the show. And I have to let parents know that I'm going to be doing that, but it's a surprise for the kids to keep it secret. But I prefer it if they don't have their dogs in the room, even cats, because I've had incidences with pets. And my first one, when I was about 12 years old, and I was actually working with a parakeet at the time instead of a dove. I was getting ready to do a big festival the next day. This was around the 4th of July, and I had taught this parakeet to fly to me from wherever it was. I would just be sitting on a ledge somewhere. I'd hold out my finger, call its name, and it would fly and land right on my finger. I took it out into my backyard to work with it, and it was doing that. Well, my next door neighbors had a golden retriever, and there was a chain link fence right in between us. And so I didn't pay much attention to him, and I went and I stood against the fence, and I was calling my parakeet, and he'd fly, land on my finger, put him back, had him come back a couple more times. Then he saw the golden retriever, and he thought, no one had ever hurt this bird before. He thought, playmate, another animal. So he flew the third time right past me, over my shoulder, and right into the dog's mouth. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, no.
I was trying. there. And I've had other incidences happen with doves too. And so, yeah.
You didn't miss a beat. You said, now you see it, now you don't.
Yeah, I think I think I was a little upset about that one, but yeah.
Now the dog doesn't bark; it just goes.
Yeah,
but it's like it starts whistling. So that's man.
Now,
that's
if you could make the
that's
dog,
a great story.
If you could make the dog shit the 7 of spades, that would be an amazing.
Awesome. Well, that was great. Those were really good tricks. I wasn't sure what comedy magic entailed, but you did that very well.
You did really well. Hey,
it.
Trevor. One of the things that, like, when Zach was up there, sometimes you have like somebody would laugh, or somebody would speak who was on the who is also waiting and watching Zach perform. Yeah. What you can do as the host, you can right-click the window where above Zach's name, and you can choose Spotlight Video or Spotlight Participant or whatever that says. And then so while they're performing, they will stay in the main frame the whole time while they're performing, and then when they're done, you can unspotlight it.
Yeah, I think that's called pinning the video, which I did.
Yeah, you can pin it, yeah. But it'll pin it just for you. But you can actually,
I see.
You can spotlight it.
Oh,
and then,
shit! Really?
And then it will be for everybody because you're in control. I can't spotlight it on my end because you're the host.
There we go. Oh shit! I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I just learned this
because I thought by pinning the video I made it available to everyone.
Yeah, pinning just does it for you, as it turns out.
Shit! So I'm a pinhead. Okay.
Spotlight does for everybody.
Okay.
And that way we wouldn't miss those little subtleties when Zach did something and somebody laughed and it moved away, and then I just caught the next part of it, and I go, I didn't see that. He could have had a trap door.
Right.
Okay, so, I will remember that for next time.
But it was I still enjoyed it all the way through, and I think most of it was your presentation and your banter, man. I just dug it. It's really nice.
I appreciate all your insight tonight. It's been very informative and educational for me. So
it was lots of fun.
It makes you want to quit your job at the assembly line, hey?
It does, yeah. I almost did. I came that close to taking a buyout and quitting. And then this whole COVID-19 thing hit, and all the shows just canceled on me, you know. So everything so of course I didn't end up. I ended up canceling this whole buyout thing in the last possible hour.
I had a guy really, really, really trying to have me invest in a comedy club in North Hollywood. He was opening up, and I was considering it. And I was just, something said, you know what? No, if I want to do it, I think I'm going to do it. And, but it was also something I kind of wanted to do because I liked the spot. The spot was really cool. But I said, nope, I decided against it. And me and a friend of mine who were both going to put some money in it, we decided, no, let's not do it right now because we're at the top of the market. We're at a 10-year bull market. And I said, so we were just doing the technical part of that. And the economy was going to shift. We had no idea this shit was going to hit.
Right.
And so I would have shit a brick if I invested that kind of money into a place and then everything shut down. That wouldn't have been, so it's timing. I guess there's a silver lining between every dark cloud and behind every dark cloud,
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for being a part of this. Thank you, Jerry, for being a headliner and giving
thanks for having me, man.
Giving the good laughs.
It was a lot of fun. You got a great group, man. Keep it going, Trevor Dean.
We'll have to get together soon and do some more material. It's been a little while.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt, man.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. We'll have to do this again.
Thank you. Great to see you, Dawn.
Nice night, everybody.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thanks, guys.
Zach, Joe Dungan, good to see you, man.
Thanks. Take care, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.